What's going on, everybody? It's your girl, Shy Bliss, aka Mama T. I'm in the building. I need you to put a one in the chat if you can hear me. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me. Put a one in the chat if you can hear me. We were having a little technical difficulties earlier, and I apologize for that, everybody. But we here. We're here. We in full effect. We in full effect. Awesome. Awesome. I see the ones coming up. Listen, let me tell y'all. Get your tea ready. You hear what I'm saying? I hope y'all got your tea because it's going to be one of them nights tonight. We finna tap in all the way live tonight. So welcome back, everybody, to another electrifying episode of the Stella Maris Podcast. Today, we are diving deep into a topic so ancient, so powerful, and so necessary for our time. We're talking about the sacred anatomy, physiology of the womb, that portal, and the divine intelligence that it holds. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. We're going to be talking about the cosmic, the scientific, the ancestral, and the deeply esoteric wisdom of the womb man. Okay? Okay? You hear what I'm talking about? This episode is more than just a conversation, y'all. It's an activation. You heard me? It's an activation. We are exploring how the female reproductive system is a reflection of universal law, how our menstrual cycles sync with lunar rhythms, and how this knowledge, once hidden or suppressed deliberately, you can't tell me it wasn't. This has been used to awaken women by the millions. This information that we are about to drop. And to guide us through this sacred journey, we have a phenomenal guest in this building. Yes, we do. She is a true bridge between the scientific and the spiritual, a healer whose journey began back in 1996 with the birth of her daughter, and since has expanded into the decades of medicinal, alternative, and energetic healing work. She holds 4 degrees in alternative medicine, a massage therapist, energy healing, and traditional Chinese medicine, including 2 bachelor's degrees, an associate's, and a master's. This sister is the founder of Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, a spiritual sanctuary where she facilitates everything from energy healing and ancestral trauma work to couples counseling and divination. Ladies and gentlemen, this sister, affectionately known as Daughter of the Fates. Let me welcome you all to the podcast today, Sister Cassandra. Faye Floyd in the building. What's going on? Oh my God, we got to set this thing on fire tonight.
Listen, let me tell you something. Even in the promos, I got to get my skills up. This shit was great. The promos, the intro, the sound effects. This shit is great.
We try to be able to come up around here.
Yeah, I got to get my skills up. Thank you so much for having me.
It's okay. You listen, it's an honor. The honor's on mine for you to be up in here on the Stella Maris Podcast, gracing us with your presence, with your knowledge, with your wisdom. Man, when I was reading your bio, I was like, what the hell? Listen, I'm gonna just give you the mic, let you do your thing. For those who don't know, tell the people about yourself, and if you can turn your speakers down a little bit, there is an echo, just a little bit, okay? But for those who don't know, let the audience know a little bit about you, your background, where you get started, and your walk, when you began this walk.
Let me adjust my mic really quick.
Okay, no problem.
Is that better?
In the meantime, the chat is live. Everybody's in the building. Get the lights up. Shout out to Mahogany Muse in the building. My
Is that better?
Oh, you're wonderful.
Okay, the feedbacks.
Yeah, it's okay. It's very light. I can it's no problem. It's all good.
Okay.
So once again, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here. I appreciate you for being here.
Thanks
Listen,
everybody. Thanks all my family.
everybody.
I cherish my little followers. You know what I'm saying? Like it
Hey,
took a long time for us to get to them 3,000 followers. You feel me?
I feel you. Hey, look, I call them subscribers because they subscribe to the mindset, right?
Yes,
And they're
yes,
on their own leaders in their own way.
yes,
So thank
yes.
you everyone for being here, embarking upon this session with us because it's very necessary. It's very needed. I had to get my notes ready because we have some intellectuals in the building, so I got to keep up out here. But once again,
Well,
introduce everybody to yourself, sister, for those who don't know who you are, your background, where you came from, and how did you begin on this journey of yours?
well, again, thank you so much for having me. And
Oh, yeah.
I want to first say, what was that? I don't remember the movie that what was the name? Ooh, I had a name on the tip of my tongue. Vivica A. Fox. There was a movie, I forget what it was, but she said, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but beep beep. You feel me?
Okay, now
Women have to do that. Women
sometimes
have to
you
do
do
that.
pick up
Like,
yourself.
for my position is that, in world changing, world saving work, there's no time for us to be humble. You feel
Amen
me?
to that. Yes,
There's no
ma'am.
time for us
All
to
the
be, not
way.
us. Like
Right.
everybody else can be humble, not us. Black women, not us. So,
No Kendrick Lamar.
yes.
We ain't
Say that
sitting
again.
down. No Kendrick Lamar. We ain't sitting down. We ain't being humble.
That part.
That
So
part.
anyway, just to be brief about my personal introduction, you covered pretty much everything in the intro. So yes, I am a practitioner of traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. That is, what I do. And that's a very condensed version of what I do because my background is in, I have a bachelor's degree in alternative medicine, a bachelor's of science in alternative medicine, which was a very, very broad umbrella of all of the systems of, alternative medicine, which is AKA colored medicine. You know what I'm saying? It's traditional medicine, it's old
Right.
medicine, it's ancient wisdom, but in a
Right.
program that was predominantly targeting white people.
Mm.
Yeah, the term alternative medicine was obviously much more attractive. So I graduated from a program that was still today, as a matter of fact, the only school in the country that offers a bachelor's of science in traditional Chinese medicine, and
Mm.
I was a graduate of the first class of the program.
Okay.
And then after that, I got an associate's in manual therapies, massage therapy, and other styles of manual therapy. And then my graduate program was a double degree, a bachelor's of science in professional health sciences and traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture. So that is, my professional background,
Yeah.
if you will, one aspect of it. We tend to be people of multiple hats in carrying
Well,
on.
we have
So I'm
to.
also an ordained minister. That's the title, is an ordained minister. I am the founder and the priestess of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, and we can talk about that. Well, we need to talk about that because of the topic that we're discussing today. So, the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence is still very much in its infancy, but it was this, it was given birth to, for lack of a better analogy, it was given birth to by this walk that I've been on with the mother in general and what that means in the real world in particular, right? So when people ask me, because we don't have a building yet, you feel me? So when people ask me what's the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, I tell them, if you want the condensed, very short Cliff's Notes version of what it is, it's the uterus. The Temple of Evolutionary
Okay.
Emergence is the uterus.
So
So,
why did you name it that?
so
Why is that? Yeah.
the reason that the uterus is the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, the reason that I would get a religious 501c3 called the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence is because at the end of the day, with or without an actual brick and mortar, the one thing, people who are pacifists historically, people who are like spiritualists or hippies or whatever, historically always, and it's really insidious. They use this phrase, we all bleed red, right? You hear that shit. And it's a really insidious way to try to minimize the legitimate struggles of other peoples. So you'll have these, it's a statement that you typically hear from those who benefit from the world the way that it is. Who is that? Right? It's people of privilege. It's white people. And so in order to shut down any kind of legitimate expression about your lived conditions, you know, it'll be these very stereotypical statements, you know, I don't see color. Love knows no color. We all bleed red. And it's a really insidious weapon used against the legitimate expression of righteous rage by those who are the victims of colonialism, imperialism, whatever fancy words you want to give to age-old oppression, right? And so for me, one of the things that stood out when I started developing this idea, and I'll be honest, now this is the temple has been something that's in my imagination for a very long time, but I was very, very meticulous about, you know, presenting it to the world, because I had always used to joke with my daughter about the only way people accept really radical change and radical ideas is if you build a cult. And so for a long, since my daughter was a teenager, we had always joked that one of these days I was going to build a cult that was going to change the world, right? And for years she'd be like, Mom, when you going to start that cult? When you going to start that cult? Right? And so
What
I
cult
was
is
very,
short for culture?
well, you know, there's a background to that. I was born in an end of the world religious cult, one of the biggest end of the world religious cults in the history of this country. So there's a background to that. That was why I was so methodical. That's why I took so long. That's why I was so deliberate, even when putting out what the temple is, that it couldn't be an anti-cult either, because when you research the word anti-cult, it's always something that's tied to or aligned with the state. It was when there was this explosion of cults in the 1950s and 60s, the state's response to it, the government, the FBI, the CIA, their response to this explosion of cults was this concept called the anti-cult, that had the feds like kidnapping people who were members of these cults and locking them up for 6 weeks and, quote, deprogramming them. So I couldn't go that way either. I was like, it has to be something that excites the imagination of human beings, but is not so super deep that people can't get it. When I say that the temple of evolutionary emergence is the uterus, this is a very simple statement. It's not our red blood that's in our veins that binds us all. The one thing that binds us all, at least for the time being, is the uterus. It is that for this ambiguous, unfathomable energy essence that we know as the cosmos, the primordial black, needing to have a very peculiar and specific experience, that the only way that experience can happen is through a uterus. Not just through a uterus, through a uterus tied to a human being that makes a conscious decision in that moment. Yes, you can come through me, or no, you have to try again.
Okay.
This is the power that intimidates the patriarchy, while at the same time we have been made to forget the first decision, the first yes or no coming from the body of a woman, right? Saying, yes, I will support this pregnancy. I will let you live through me. I will let you have your peculiar and specific destiny through me. I say yes to your life. And as I say yes to your life, now I'm gonna say, I have to be very mindful now as a practitioner. When I see patients, when I consult with people, and especially since I moved to California, I'd say 85% of my patients are Mexican or native. And I had a very hard, I'm in Southern California, I'm in LA. You feel me? And so before I came out here, you know, my acculturation, my worldview was black. It was black as fuck, as a matter of fact. If I can say that. Sorry, this yo shit. Excuse me. This is your channel. This is why I probably still only have 3,000 followers, is because I cuss like a sailor. Anyway, I digress. You know, growing up in the South, living in the South, right? My acculturation is black, right? Straight black, that's it. I would still say that I even identified really deeply as an African internationalist, a black nationalist, when I came out to California. I still had leanings towards other things culturally, but that was my acculturation. That when people see me, they don't see my quote indigenous ancestry or none of that. They see black. You feel me? And so when I came out here, and the way that I came out here, the journey that brought me out here was very centered in these really random experiences that I was having driving across the country. It took me 6 weeks to drive across the country. That's a story for another day, but it's a deep one. When I got on the road to drive to California to meet this family I had never met before out here in California, baby, these indigenous ancestors, these native ancestors whose blood permeates the soil, that road trip was crazy. Let me just say that. It was all of this contact which led me to coming here. And in treating so many, particularly Mexican women and indigenous women, not exclusively, but that's the majority of people who I come into contact with, I had to be very mindful and careful, if you will, about how I articulate my position about our relationship to the mother. Because in this state, it's much more like black people in the South. We have a very peculiar and specific cultural relationship to the church, to the religions of, our birth, right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't on my radar until I got here, the very peculiar relationship that Mexican and indigenous people have to Catholicism and the social, political, emotional impact that it has on them. That shit is deeper than I ever experienced as a Baptist.
Yeah, the colonization is real. Absolutely.
And so when I talk about the mother, when I talk about centering the mother, when I talk about preparing a place for the mother's return, when I talk about the mother, a lot that can be triggering to a lot of people, but because of the very vicious relationship that they may have with the person that gave birth to them, right?
Wow.
And I have a position, in the temple that our mothers, and I want to be clear, I recognize that there are people, women, who have given birth to human beings and were terrible mothers. They were terrible. They were terrible in their treatment of their children. They were, maybe emotionally unavailable. All of these, they were narcissists. I get it. I do. I accept it. And so I tell people, like, when I counsel people who get upset when I put so much emphasis on, on the restoration of our relationship with the mother, that even if you don't have a healthy relationship with the mother that gave birth to you, right? That there has always been a mother that has taken her place. An auntie, a grandma, a community elder, you know what I'm saying? And if that's not the case, then you still have this planet that still takes care of you, provides you with all that you need to exist. And at the end of the day, and I will pause there. The uterus is the only mechanism so far that binds us all, not just binds us all.
Let me pause you for a second, because you hitting a lot of points, and I wanted to build on something for a minute before you continue on. When you were saying you were running into a lot of people, indigenous or native, so-called Mexicans, that hold dear to Catholicism and the religion, basically, where it's ultimately patriarchal. And so when you are bringing up things about the mother, they're being triggered, right? Because of whatever relationship they had with their mother, right? And I understand. I was talking with someone that earlier about relationships with mothers and how this brings a certain conditioning on us. Why do you think they were triggered by that? What do you think is stemming from the relationship between the child and mother that brings animosity between the two? What do you think is going on there?
Well, I've talked about this a lot on my channel. As a matter of fact, I did 2 series, I think, on one was called Mothers Stop Casting Spells on Your Daughters. And the reason for that, and I'm not saying, so with Catholicism, because we all experience, black people, black women, black men, black children, we all have these relationships that are based in our relationship to Christianity. Mexicans, because Catholicism is different in a lot of ways culturally than, quote, Southern Baptist Christianity or whatever, those things play out differently. The matriarch in Mexican communities and Mexican homes in particular, well, even in indigenous homes, Native American homes. I've spent a lot of time with people on different reservations throughout this country, and it's so pervasive where the, quote, matriarch of the family is vicious, is authoritarian, not in a progressive way, not in a protective way. You feel me? Where this is what Catholicism has done. Catholicism and its child, Christianity, has created in the woman, through the isolation of women from each other and from themselves, being taught since infancy that their only value is in relationship to whatever male they exist next to, whether that's their sons, whether that's their fathers, or whether that's their husbands or lovers. And
The
in an
women
attempt,
the
hold on,
ultimate patriarch.
what the reason I'm saying this is because even as we identify these women as, quote, the matriarchs of their family, in real time, they are the patriarchs of their
She's
family.
the ultimate patriarch.
It is still, yes,
exactly.
it is still this. As a matter of fact, in the book, The Great Cosmic Mother, she devotes a whole chapter to this about how from day one, from the beginning of this project called patriarchy, what these different patriarchal religions and cultures have done over these thousands of years has turned the woman against themselves to become the perfect weapon against their children, to solidify through lineage this continuation of the ideology of the Great Father, whatever face or personification he has at any given time.
Okay, absolutely. That's heavy. Now, that's the root. That's kind of what I was getting to.
Yes. And let me add one more thing. I'm sorry. The other thing that in a real world, like we're talking philosophically, but when I am face to face with a human being that tells me that they hate their mothers, that they will never talk to their mothers again, and I know based on the medicine I practice the kind of impact that has on them physically. Baby, I'm sorry to tell you, but you're sick because you hate your mama. I know you don't want to hear that. I can't tell them that. You know what I'm saying? In session. So I have to navigate around how to rectify this, even as I'm treating them in real time for some serious illness that they may come to me. And at the end of the day, I say this often, and I'm not saying this as a blanket statement because there are some women who have committed crimes against their children that are unforgivable. Okay? But I'm talking about those of us who have, just power struggle or power dynamic issues with our mamas, or our mamas was narcissists. At the end of the day, and it always gives people pause, I ask them, do you give your mother the same grace that you've given a mythological Jesus? Do you extend your mother the same grace that you do a perfect stranger? Right? You feel what I'm saying? So, yeah.
Nine times out of 10, that's not the case.
Absolutely not.
Not the case.
And that's not the case because our childhood self remembers that our mother is God. That's why we don't give her grace. Is because we view our mother infallible. She's supposed to be infallible. She's supposed to be perfect because our subconscious mind remembers that moment where our mother was perfect, was God. It was the only evidence that we had in our infant mind is God. So when she begins to display characteristics that are a direct consequence of the fact that she too is colonized, she too has been oppressed, she too has been brainwashed, it's harder for us to forgive her or give her grace. Our daddies can be gone our whole lives, and as soon as we see our bum ass daddy that ain't did nothing for us, we crying tears and we like welcoming our daddy. This is the conditioning and what it looks like in real time in our relationships.
Definitely. This trauma. It's trauma, it's conditioned, and it's been passed down. It's generational, right? From through this patriarch. It's so funny. So this kind of like blends with the Willie Lynch thing in a way, because it's when you look at the role that the woman plays in the family, and then when you're looking at the so-called matriarchs of these certain societies that you are cultures that you've been in, and they are brutal. right?
Mm-hmm.
Because they're conditioned, because whoever was teaching them, whoever mastermind the whole damn thing, this whole paradigm that we're existing in,
Mm-hmm.
they knew that the control of it had to be funneled through the woman, right? And even when she's carrying that child, when the child is within the womb, the chemistry that she has and whatever she's thinking, whatever trauma she's going through, that's going into the child, whether it's male or female, right? And
Mm-hmm.
so these personalities that are being that's coming forth even out of her are actually parts of her own reflection, right?
Mm-hmm.
How she feels with her about herself probably at the time while she was carrying that child. So the power of the womb. Let's get into the womb and the energy that it holds, this matrix that it is. And if you are not in your right mind, look at what we are producing through this matrix, through this channel. And did you notice the difference if you were dealing with women who were awakened, who knew about the mother and connected to that? Did they have a different energy with their children, with their family, and the role that they play? Did you notice a vast difference in that, or break that down for me, or tap into that a little bit?
I'm looking at the comments. They're saying they're still hearing an echo. Let me try to lower my mic again and see if that's the
It's not
reason.
the mic; it's your speaker that's picking up me, probably.
Oh, oh, okay.
So
Well,
do you have? That's why
let,
do you have
let me lower that.
headphones? If you have headphones or earbuds,
Is that
um,
better?
yeah, I don't hear it at all now.
Okay.
Right. Ask the people in the chat because it's different for me. Do you still hear an echo in the chat? Put a one in the chat if you still hear an echo.
Okay. Somebody said no echo, or somebody
Awesome.
said yes. I don't know what else to do about it.
But if
I
you do
don't
have
have
headphones or
headphones.
earbuds, you don't have okay. But that normally would cancel that out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
therefore
I
you can
think
turn
the
off the
headphones.
speaker.
Let me try them. The last time I checked, they weren't working that good. Let me just try because I can't turn
But
my.
that's an interesting point that you were making in regards to visiting these women when you were treating them. What made you even bring that up, like talking about? Because normally when you're in your profession and you keep away from certain ideals, what made you want to even tap in and bring this up to them about the Great Mother and talking about the divine feminine and that type of energy? What made you want to even discuss that with them?
Because of what I feel like I've been called to do. This is the avenue. Me as a healer, me having the peculiar experience that I've had. Can you hear me at all?
I can hear you just fine.
Okay, great. Yeah. This particular avenue that was laid before me, right? Giving me the opportunity to make the the broadest impact that I can make. Now, I will say that these are not the discussions that I have with everyone that I treat. I allow, you know, intervention to happen in session with patients, right? So, and even still, I do not impose. What'll happen is I have not honed my abilities as a medium. It's something that growing up Christian, I was always very wary and fearful of this whole idea of, quote, like in the tradition of Ifa, they call it being mounted by spirit, right? That idea always, even now, I got goosebumps everywhere. I'm like, that's my stopping point, right? But being in
I
space with,
understand.
say that again.
I said I understand. So
So being in these scenarios with people, I will pay attention if there is a nod that comes from something that's obviously not me, right? And I will ask them in session, are you okay to receive information from me that is not directly tied to what you've come here for? Because some people come to me because they got a belly ache or they got acid reflux and that's all they need help with. But
yeah.
when there is an obvious intervention, a nudge, a voice,
Mm,
something, I
gotcha.
will ask them, are you okay with receiving information from me that is not directly tied to what you come to me
Okay.
for? I don't impose my will on people, especially not as a practitioner, right? And that's not based on, people's gender or anything. Interestingly enough, I have treated ongoing, I think, 8 transgender people. And the thing that is very, very interesting is living in Los Angeles, where this whole transgender, phenomena is very, openly expressed everywhere. It's just a part of the regular everyday life here.
Okay.
It's
Okay. Yeah.
so fascinating that the only patients that I've had that are transgender have been females that are transitioning to male, either actively transitioning or fully transitioning. And I never hear in broad conversation hardly any discussion about female to male transitioners. Everything that you hear politically out in the world is about trans women. Trans women's rights, trans women's safety, the murder of trans, that's everything. That's all that you hear. So I've never treated a trans woman. I've never had a trans woman come to me. I was like, this is really interesting that I rarely even meet trans men, female to male transitioners, right? And all of the people that I've treated in the 11 years that I've been practicing have been trans
Huh.
men. I was like, this is really fascinating. And some of the things that they tell me about why they are there to see me is what is fascinating. I had the first person I ever treated. I said, well, what is it that you are here for? What is it that you need from me? And they told me, I want to experience in my body what it feels like to be a woman. They had been transitioning since they had started taking, puberty blockers at
This is
13.
going somewhere totally different.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Okay.
And I'm going to tell you why. Because
Why?
for a person that had already been living as a man from 13 to 28 was when they came to me. And the first thing that they said to me is, my body, not me, my body wants to experience what it is to be female, to be a woman. I said, what do you mean? They had already had a double mastectomy, all of the things, taking tea for years, right? I said, well, where did this come from?
Right.
And they said, I have been having dreams for about a year that I've been trying to ignore about me bleeding and needing to bleed. That's what they said.
Wow.
So it is related. It is related. That the only
Wow.
surgery they refused to have was to have the hysterectomy. It was the
Okay.
only surgery they refused. So that
Interesting.
person still had their uterus.
And so
So
she was still having her cycle. Was she still having her cycle?
No, she was taking tea. The reason that trans men take tea is to stop their menstrual cycle. They had never experienced a menstrual
Wow.
cycle because they started puberty blockers at 13. And this person
Wow.
came to me and was like, look, I thought I was going crazy at first, but for about a year, my I've been having dreams that I need to
Wow.
bleed.
So,
And the reason, and hold on, Java
anyway,
Watson, let me address something in the comments. Java Watson, the reason that I say they is because even in that interaction with that person told, because I asked them, how do you want me to address you? That person said, for right now, call me they, because I do not know. If you can help me get my period back, I might change my mind. That's what they said. That's why I did not specify he,
so
right?
listen,
Yeah.
um, from now on, let's not focus on the chat because that would be a huge distraction. All right.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to always make you go left because there's trolls in there. So, um, and I know I'm glad that you addressed that point. But what I'm more
Java is a
fascinated about,
follower of mine.
oh, okay. What I'm more fascinated about is the fact that they were having dreams
Yes.
to make them want to connect back to the womb and to go through the cycle.
Do you want me to
And
tell you
I
why?
think, well, I kind of want to get a little further on, but
I'm talking
fine.
about based on the medicine and what we're talking about. Based on my left brain Chinese medicine, Doctor of Oriental
Yeah,
medicine, there's an explanation
right,
for why
right.
their dreams was kicking their ass.
Why was their dreams kicking their behinds?
Can I show you a picture?
Sure.
All right.
Absolutely.
So this is a workshop that I teach fairly regularly. This is my little I'm not, a dynamic artist, but you get the picture. This
You are
picture,
so on point, because this is what I was about to ask you about. Because you
what
had
this,
showed me a picture before in the conversation, and I
oh,
wanted to
okay.
really get into that. So I'm glad you're bringing this up. Awesome.
Okay. So this image is an image to explain why, to explain a lot. But this is based on a workshop that I call The Mysteries and Secrets of the Lower Palace. In traditional Chinese medicine, the uterus is called the lower palace. Okay? The uterus is called the lower palace. It is said this is where spirit comes to be housed before it is made real, the lower palace. And if you think about a palace has everything that you need. You don't even have to think about it. It has everything that you need to not only survive, but thrive. This is the lower palace. Okay? So there is, in people born female, let me make a correction. People born with uteruses. People born with uteruses. So in basic Chinese theory, we have our 12 primary meridians or channels that are all associated with our organs. Okay? We have a lung channel and a heart channel and so on, so on, so on, right? So we have 12 channels that we all have in common. Then we have an additional 3 channels that we also have in common, but they function differently than the 12 primary, in that they're not connected to organs. Okay, one of those channels y'all call the lifeline. When your belly get big, when you get pregnant, you can see it real good, but that little line that you see. So what we call the lifeline, which goes all the way around, right, is 2 channels, the Ren and the Du. These are said to be the meridians that were the first formed at the moment that the zygote, the embryo, made its first cellular division. The one cell became the 2. That's the first cellular division. The second cellular division, where the 2 became 4, that is the girdling vessel, and so on. And so this is how your meridians formed. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, in people born with uteruses, we have 1 channel more than people born male. People born male have 1 less channel than people born with a uterus. This is called the uterine vessel, or the bao mai. So you see here this little dotted line that stems from the uterus and passes through. Okay? Now, where the medicine is concerned, right? This channel, the uterine vessel, this little spiral here, it's what we call the Ming Men fire. It is where we get our ancestry from. It's what connects us to our ancestral line. Okay? This is our source chi, or what we call it's the source of our pre-heaven essence. Okay? Pre-heaven essence is just a beautiful, way to say you get 23 chromosomes from your mama, you get 23 chromosomes from your daddy, and this is your genetic inheritance. This is the source of it. You see? This is between the kidneys. So that's why. Yes, exactly. So this is between the kidneys. So anytime you see old goddess figures and it's got like a little spiral and where the belly button is supposed to be, it is the Ming Men. It is the Ming Men. Okay? So once that uterine vessel passes through your ancestral inheritance, right? Mm-hmm. It passes through, and it is said to spread through the heart. Okay? Spread through the heart. Okay. Now, the biological explanation for this, now you have to read about Chinese gynecology is about 5,000 years old, these philosophies, okay? And when the Bao Mai scatters in the heart, this was how the ancients explained behavior that they thought was peculiar in females. Why females are not just female humans, female animals. We've all heard the stories. Like if you touch a dog's litter too soon, she will not care. If you intervene in any way in her delivery, she will abandon her children. You hear the same thing about birds, so on and so forth. So they were trying to understand why this peculiar behavior of this quote, irrational love and protection of the offspring, right? And this was the explanation that was used, was the uterus is directly tied to the heart. The uterus and the heart communicate with one another, and it is purely, well, we make it esoteric, which is fine. It's just multiple languages to say the same thing, but it is a chemical necessity. If you as the female are responsible for securing the progeny, because every creature on earth, from the single cell organism to us, its primary drive, chemically, biologically, its primary drive is to live forever. It's to see itself live forever through its offspring. That's it. It's the driving force for everything, is to see not only ourselves live forever, but the best of ourselves continue on in our progeny. So the female is charged, and all higher level mammals, charged with the securing and the protecting of the progeny, right? And so that's why even when we talk about, quote, women's intuition and our heightened sense of things and our gut feeling, baby, we can make that philosophical or spiritual. It is chemical. It is biological. If you are charged with securing the progeny, making sure the species continues forever, you have to have a heightened sense of things. You have to have a heightened sense of danger, even if you can't see it. Your smell is more intense. Your sight, your hearing is more, significant. Now, I'm going to tell you where the theory is concerned. That's where, because it's always been charted by men, that's where it stops. That's where the discussion stops, is to explain this relationship between our uterus and our heart. The whole idea of, quote, crazy bitch syndrome, where if you, quote, mess with a female heart, she check out, go crazy, and next thing you know, all the windows in your car busted out or whatever. Yeah. This is not just because, quote, women are crazy. It is because of this direct relationship between the uterus and the heart. Now, the problem is that men who have been the ones, putting out the philosophy about the bi-mal always stop at the heart. But the heart in Chinese medicine is called the emperor. Okay? Every other organ, let me pull out another chart. Every other organ in this organism, this is you. This whole thing right here, the five elements, is your whole self, right? It's your whole self. It is the different organs, aka systems, working together harmoniously to make you a healthy you. You feel me?
Yeah, absolutely.
The heart is called, which is the fire element, is called the emperor. All of the other organs are called chiefs in the emperor's court. Wow. Chiefs in the emperor's court. In five elements, the heart is the most important vessel because it is the first thing identifiable with life. The first thing that you detect in an embryo is the heartbeat. It's the first thing.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
And so this is the emperor, and this is his court. Every organ is like an individual.
Or her court. Go ahead.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's not an improper statement. But every organ is like an individual human being, knowing its role, knowing its job, having its own personality, its own behaviors, its own emotions, and its own spirit, each organ. But if they are at odds with each other, right. Even when you use this, when I use this to diagnose a patient, because I draw this for everybody that I consult with. I draw this image and explain to them in this image what is wrong with them, how their organs are communicating to me, what their organs are saying to me, right? And in this image, when you use this to diagnose, it's called, this outer circle here, these outer arrows, is called the generating cycle, or the mothering cycle, or the birthing cycle. That's what it's called. This right here.
Wow.
Fire. Yeah. Mothers or gives birth to earth. Earth gives birth to metal. Metal gives birth to water. Water gives birth to wood, and wood gives birth to fire. Wow. So when you diagnose by this, so say something is wrong, it is mother-son language that is used to explain the diagnosis. You have, acid reflux disorder. It's mother, grandmother, and son that is used in this diagram. So say you got, GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disorder. Every time you eat a meal, you have heartburn or acid reflux. Then the 5 elements diagnosis is grandmother overacts on the son, the grandmother overacts on the son, and depletes the mother. So the treatment is to soothe the grandmother, nourish and strengthen the mother who has been weakened in her hostile relationship with her mama, and subdue the son. This is the language that is used in diagnosis to treat acid reflux. Soothe the grandmother so she ain't overbearing on her daughter, because her overbearing or overacting on her daughter is weakening her. If she is weak, she cannot care for her son. You understand? She can't subdue him. She can't calm him. And a son is always rambunctious. Yang energy is always like, it's the 2-year-old tearing everything off the shelf. So soothe the grandmother, strengthen and nourish the mother, and subdue and calm the son. That's the language, right? So it's everywhere.
That's very interesting.
So let me just say one more thing. I know I go on, but it's important in a relationship about the uterus, the lower palace. The heart, where they stop this language about the relationship between the uterus and the heart as the emperor is how our intake for the entire world, our intake for what triggers us emotionally, our intake for looming possible danger, right? You walking down the street, you can't see anything, but you still have this 6 to 9 foot, electromagnetic field. That field is generated by your heart, your actual physical heart. That's measurable. That electromagnetic field is generated by your heart. It's the feelers that the heart puts out and then feeds back to you. And the heart, as the emperor, is said to govern the mind. To govern the mind. Your conscious and subconscious mind is ruled by the heart, not the other way around. And y'all have heard it. Now scientists are saying there's more synaptic activity in the heart than there is in the brain. It is the heart that informs the brain, and then the brain responds accordingly. The reason that I have lips here is because of the mouth. The heart is, and even in the Bible, what does it say? The truth of the heart flowers from the root of the tongue.
Right.
The heart governs the tongue, the throat, and the quality of our speech, right? And so now when you think about this connection that the uterus has to the heart, knowing the impact that the heart has on the mind and the throat. Why is it crazy bitch syndrome? Because the heart governs the mind. You understand what I'm saying? You mess with somebody's heart, you mess with somebody's emotions. In Chinese medicine, it is said that every single psychological disorder, diagnosable psychological disorder, can be treated effectively, to the point that people can come off medications by treating the heart channel, because all psychological disorders are generated from the heart and then impact the mind. Sleep, chronic sleep disorders, right? So imagine if you have uterine issues of the womb, betrayal, right? Frustration, hurt, damage, harm. How is that going to impact your heart? And what is your heart damaged by uterine damage, uterine injury? What is your heart going to radiate in this 6 to 9 foot radius? What energy is it radiating out, having had its uterus suffer so long? So it's a huge part of why I know it doesn't seem connected, but even why I don't censor myself. I don't self-censor. And I debated about this for a long time. Should I clean up my language? I ain't got but 2,000 followers. You feel me? I know I'm being shadow banned but recognizing the impact that the heart has on the throat and its ability, its necessity to speak freely, unabridged, and candidly right? You imagine the dragon who's the fire-breathing dragon. This is the exhalation of something that would devour you from the inside out, if not
Wow.
expelled. You
Yeah.
feel me?
Yeah, I
So,
got you. Yes,
yeah.
ma'am. Totally, totally. And just imagine all the women that are censored.
I will say one more thing.
Go ahead.
To going back to the trans man, that is the reason. What I just explained to you is the uterus connected to the heart, connected to the conscious and subconscious mind, is why their uterus was speaking to them through the conditioning, through all the social, narratives. Their uterus was like, look, God damn it. You understand?
Right.
And the heart, this medicine explains right away why they were being harassed in their sleep. Yes, it was the uterus, but it was the uterus filtered through the heart. The uterus informing the heart of what needed to be done. And since you cannot hear through your reasoning, you cannot hear through your social conditioning, you cannot see clearly through all of these narratives and dogmas imposed on you, let me harass you while you're sleeping. I'm just trying to give y'all a word.
It was a whole word. Yes, ma'am. Indeed. I don't even know where to go from there. Like,
well, let me just say, I saw your itinerary. I was going through it today, like kind of fine tooth combing it. I was like, this is hella ambitious. I do not know how this sister.
No, we're not going to go through the whole thing. I mean, I was just briefly trying to tap into stuff. The main thing is, right, like a lot of women are here because of the video that I dropped last week, right? And then I made another video talking about more about how you need to channel your ancestors when you're doing certain rituals or certain things, and the power of our sacred fluids and all the things that it holds, not just spiritually, right? We had a conversation about a week ago in regards to the stem cells and the regenerative cells that hold in your menstrual blood, as well as the umbilical cord of the placenta. So I really wanted to the women that are here to understand more scientifically the power that the womb has, especially when you're going through certain cycles, right? And also wanted to tap into the power of the synchronicity that women have when they're together, going on their cycles together, as well as causing a cosmic shift with this power.
Yes.
So, that's kind of the real focus of it all.
And we haven't diverted necessarily from that, because
no, it's okay. No, I'm glad you gave that whole background. I mean, that was phenomenal, because I love the scientific breakdown of it, especially with the Chinese medicine, because I really wanted you to tap into that as well, to show how this is just not a little pocketbook down here, like how it's directly connected to the heart, and the heart is connected to the thought, the aligns with all the chakras. So in order for you to have a proper awakening, things need to be in proper alignment, and you need to be in tune with that as well.
I do want to address something that's in the feed, because it's an important question. I get it a lot about people who've had hysterectomies, or people who no longer bleed, right? So people who may be in their crone years, or they may have had surgical, they've gone into surgical menopause, aka hysterectomies. So just the short answer is, even if you have gone through surgery or you have gone through natural menopause, the Bao Mai still exists. The uterine vessel still exists. People ask me the same thing about, like, my mother had her gallbladder removed, and the gallbladder channel is a major channel, a major organ in this system of medicine. And I'm like, it does not matter that your physical gallbladder has been removed. You still have a gallbladder channel. And this is the evidence that your gallbladder is in distress. Boom, 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 boom. You feel me? I've had people who've had like splenectomies, had their spleen removed. Does not matter. That's what's so amazing about this system of medicine, is that what is otherwise unexplainable in Western medicine, and I will just say that because people try to demote the significance of the system of medicine that I chose as a path, but my education was just as heavy in the Western sciences as it was in so-called alternative medicine and Eastern sciences, right? So I can switch brains. I can talk, I can talk Western medicine if that's more what you understand, or I can talk the more esoteric language. The esoteric language is just as scientifically valid, which is why I had to master the
Absolutely.
art of well,
Yeah.
it's common sense to us, but for people who may come in as a patient,
Mm-hmm.
I have to be able to move back and forth
With
in a
bounce
language that
off.
they can understand. So
Right.
I'm saying that
Right.
because yes, even if you've had surgical removal of your reproductive organs, or if you have gone through natural menopause, the power inherent in incarnating with a uterus still exists in your body, both esoterically and spiritually, and biochemically.
Mm.
So, yeah. As a matter of
Indeed.
fact, there's enough history that teaches us that even to this day, that the
Mm-hmm.
most feared, aka witch, the most feared witch was the crone. Because now that her blood was no
Right.
longer leaving her body, they
Mm-hmm.
assumed that the power that was inherent in that blood is now being
Yeah.
held within her. That it
Ooh.
exacerbated her magical power to become
Let's tap
crone.
into that. That makes a lot of sense.
Yes.
No, really, that makes total sense because the crone is the wise woman. She has the wisdom and the knowledge that she passes on to her daughters and to the virgins or the maidens or whatever you want to call it. And she is most feared and most respected, right? When she's more in tune with herself, in tune with nature. Like when those women, those elder women who walk away from that patriarchal system. And 9 times out of 10, they're loners, right?
Yeah, right,
They're
right.
by this and they live a long life. They're on this planet for a very long time, and then they have this magic about them with nature. They are automatically in tune with the planet, with certain herbs. They're the medicine women, right? They're the healers. They're the shamans. You normally go to them for counseling and wisdom and correction and things that you may need. So I wanted to really ask you too about when you were talking. We had a conversation where you were talking about this dream that you had or this journey that you took when you were going from you had a ayahuasca experience and your ancestors made you stop at all these fresh waters when you were on you were beginning your cycle, right? So you were going through this, and you weren't supposed to go on your cycle. I want you to go over that story again with me because it's leading up to the power of the waters when you were describing the waters like of the Mississippi and how when it branches out they're like veins, right? So break that down for the people because that was a fascinating story, and I really think that really help people understand the power of ancestors, the connection and listening, as well as the body and what it's going through when you're going through your cycle, and the relationship that it has with the earth.
Okay. So there are a couple of things that I want to say, very short prefaces. When we talk about the ancestors, I was a devotee of Ifa, hardcore devotee of Ifa for 15 years. And when I made the public declaration a few years ago that I would no longer be calling myself a devotee of Ifa, I still love the tradition. I still worship the Orisha. I still worship my ancestors, but I was not going to be a quote tried and true Ile attached devotee. There was a reason for that, and it's important to say that because everything has been a journey. Our ancestors, listen, I talk about this so much. The altar, the shrine, the ancestral altar, I still counsel people to do that, right? These outward displays of ritual and ceremony are especially helpful for people who are new in their walk, new in this journey with the mother. But they are to sharpen your senses that have been dulled by your imprisonment.
Mm.
They are these outward displays. You see, I have my goddess shrine right behind me. You feel me?
Yeah.
These are outward to get involved in ceremony that way. I feel like is an important step, just like any apprentice. What is kindergarten? What is the third grade? So on and so forth. But it is a reminder, dear, that the ceremony, that the ritual, that the primary altar is your uterus. It is your uterus. And so, as a matter of fact,
Wait a minute, hold on now. You can't just say that and keep going. Wait a second. Listen.
there's a reason.
Ooh, ooh, wait.
I said that specifically to address what you said about the ancestors. It's too easy because even as we become spiritual, even as we become hip to the game, you feel me? There is still this way through our patriarchal conditioning that we see spirituality, we see our spiritual entities, we see our emissaries, we see our ancestors is something that is outside of us, something that is apart from us that we are petitioning over there somewhere. Your ancestors are your blood. You are the walking evidence that your ancestors existed. You feel me? So, and the reason I make that clarification is because when I came into the tradition, it was 2009-ish when I became a devotee of Ifa. And the first deep conversation I had with my godmother, I said, now I'm an infant. You feel me? 3 months, I was an atheist for 12 years. So I'm going into this other extreme. And I'm like, look, I'm just learning about the Orisha. And I read minimally the information about Oya. And I told my godmother 3 months in, I was like, I already know who sit on my head. She was like, you can't possibly know that. I was like, I'm telling you, I know who sit on my head. She was like, who? I said, Oya. Oya is my mother. She's like, I'm telling you, there's no way you can know that. You got to go you got to go to the mat. You got to sit before a man, child. You got to sit in between a man's legs for him to confirm who your mother is. She said, well, how would you possibly know that? How can you even be arrogant enough to say that? I said, because to read her story at 32, with no frame of reference, didn't know nothing about the tradition at all. To read her story at 32 instantly made my entire life make sense. Everything that I had no language for, being a Christian, everything that I had no image bank to use to help explain to my 8-year-old self or my 5-year-old self or my 12-year-old self where these things were coming from inside of me. In the instant that I read about Oya, everything in my life made sense. Every vision, every dream, every weird experience that I had just chalked up to. And so that is also about the 5-dimensionality that Oya governs. She governs time in every direction. You understand? This is what she did.
Let me say this: when you was talking about ancestors, I've never been one to worship anything outside of myself. I've always known that this is within me. So I was always approached by different, let's say, sects of religions, whether African traditional or whatever, to be initiated into this and that, and it never sat right with me. And I never needed anyone to be a medium to let me know who I'm connected to. It's innate. Some of us innately know. We already understand because we are a reflection of them. So when they say this is your child, this is your mother, well, basically you are them incarnate. That's how I look at it. Like you are a reflection of them here walking on this earth. And it was a sister on another show was talking about, you said the altar that you should have is the uterus. It was very interesting because she was saying the first altar you need to have is an altar of yourself. So this is connecting to that in a very powerful way because I'm glad you mentioned that part about that because that's phenomenal. And it's really not about anything outside of you. It's really about you working with what you have within you.
Well, I want to make a clarification. For you, you are the exception to the rule, at least for right now. You are the exception. That no. You are. There may be, but I guarantee you that there are many more of us who have had this hardcore indoctrination and really took that shit seriously, and everything was outside. So even this journey with me, I did not just arrive here. I went through seriously insane circumstances, seeing the world the same way, that I'm pleading to something outside of myself to change my life, whether it was Jesus or whether it was the Orisha or whatever. So when I talk about these journeys that I had to have, these experiences I had to go through to arrive at this point where all the things, my political life and my spiritual life and me as an atheist and all of these crazy ass experiences can articulate something to people who are struggling to understand what spirituality looks like genuinely in a world proliferated with some insane ideas about what it means to be a whole human. You feel what I'm saying? And the reason I made specifically the thing about our ancestors and the uterus being the altar is because again, this is what connects us to our ancestors. This is what connects us to our ancestors. That's it. Nothing else. Nothing else. Right? And so when I look into the mirror, when I look into the mirror, I don't just see me. I see the culmination of every prayer my ancestors prayed. I see the culmination of every desire that they could not fill, that they could not fulfill. Every talent that they could not express because of this shit that we are charged to undo. We are charged to, whether we want, what did Thomas Sankara say? Thomas Sankara said, every human being born in the world the way that it is has only one decision to make in their life, whether to betray or fulfill their destiny. That's it. That's it. Until the world is made whole and well, that's the decision. Absolutely. So going back to what you were asking about this trip, there was a reason for that. Because my ancestors kicked my ass in ayahuasca. They were not gentle. They yanked my chain in ayahuasca. And the short version of that story was I started my cycle 2 weeks early. I can set an alarm clock since I was 10 by my cycle. It's that regular. You feel me? My cycle was 2 weeks early. It came on while I was in ceremony with ayahuasca. And I heard a voice tell me, among a whole bunch of other things, I probably have to write a book about my first ayahuasca experience. That shit was crazy. But one of the things that I was told in ayahuasca was that I had to take my blood that had just started that night, that I had to, because I was driving across the country, I had to go and buy a Diva cup, first time ever. I had to go and buy a Diva cup, and I had to capture my moon blood, and I had to make the commitment to pour my moon blood in every body of fresh water that I crossed driving across the country. And I did it. And the reason why is because, as you mentioned, I saw this picture years ago, but it always stood out. This, you can Google it. It's like a map of the United States with everything removed except the rivers and its tributaries. So all of the rivers in the country and all of the little branches, the streams and stuff that pour out from those rivers. And it literally looks just like if you were to look at a picture of your heart, and the major organ that comes to the major artery that comes to your heart is the aorta, right? Yeah. And then from the aorta are all these little tributaries. That's what the Mississippi River looks like. It's the aorta of the United States. Wow. It's the longest river. It's the widest river. It's got the most tributaries. Yeah. Right. And so I, driving across the country, pour my moon blood, including in the Mississippi River, I was like, yes. And I was thinking, my multi-brain, Gemini rising ass, crazy self, you feel me, was like, ooh, if we could get 10,000 women to just make the commitment to pour their moon blood in the Mississippi River, can we set this shit off? You feel me? If we can make women all over the planet, they can't do nothing else but say, I make the commitment to every month at least pouring 1 day of my moon blood in the body of water nearest me, can it heal the water? And the reason I was thinking about this is my other right brain shit, as I read about the first almanac produced in this country and how the farmers regularly in the 1800s in particular would take all the blood-soaked sheets and clothes of the females in their house, and wash them separately from the other clothes and take the diluted water, the blood diluted in this water, and use it to remineralize the soil. They would sprinkle that blood-rich water all over the soil before their next planting season. The other thing I was thinking was like, there's not a single body of fresh water in the United States that they say is safe to drink from anymore. Not one. Where just 100 years ago, you could drink from any river in this country, directly from any river in this country. And I was like, well, damn, what's changed? Women, for at least for the first few hundred years, but even at the turn of the 20th century, you still had the majority of the people in this country were farmers, and they would go out to the river, and the women would wash their blood-soaked clothes in the river, and all that blood water would go into the river with all them stem cells, all them life-giving reparative stem cells in the water that's no longer reaching the water.
Wow. Say it one more again. I don't think they understand. Hold on. This is phenomenal. I didn't know this. I didn't know this practice was being done. I want to ask the people in the chat, have you ever heard of that practice before? Have you ever heard of anything like that? And the reason why, could it be possibly that tradition is no longer in practice, where the farmers used to take their wives' blood-soaked sheets or whatever, their clothes, and washed it separately? How did they even know to do that? To extract, right? And use that diluted water with the blood to pour it in the river to remineralize the water. What? So,
you understand what I'm saying?
Going back to what I was saying about the power of the menstrual blood, it's just not to do certain rituals with. This has a scientific connection to the planet and the water. Like what you were saying about the stem cells, the regenerative properties that the menstrual blood holds.
Yes.
That's being released back in the waters. Oh my God. Like when you told me that, I was like, oh no. How did we forget?
Well, it has been let me just say, that has been so when we talk about, and this is a conversation that might have to be a totally separate conversation, but at least to give you the Cliff's Notes version, when people ask me regularly, well, how did this whole thing start? Like, how did patriarchy start? You feel me? And how has it been able to maintain such a stranglehold on the collective consciousness, right? So you mentioned the Matrix earlier. It was actually on my list of things to talk about. You mentioned the Matrix, and it's such a glaring example of what's been done historically. The Matrix, this movie that defined all of us, you feel me? Went to the movies to see it 3 times, you feel me? Oh my God, this shit's so revolutionary. Yes, that's what it is. We trapped in a simulation and all it, and it has defined language since its release.
Right.
At the beginning of the new century. You understand?
Wow.
That shit was so insidious. Because the Matrix is not something that we should be talking about trying to escape or leave or destroy. The word matrix means mother. Womb. It means womb. It means, hold on, in Latin, it means source. It means the origin of all things. In science, it means origin or original. In mathematics, it means origin, beginning. It means...
So they just demonized the word like they did everything else to make us feel that we're in a trap.
They didn't just demonize it, sis. They didn't just demonize it. The thing in Matrix, because I believed it just the way it was fed to me. You feel me? Right. And I went back with new eyes in this walk with the goddess, and shit that was never clear. I've seen that movie 1,000 times. Shit that was never clear with this new brain in my walk with the goddess was like glaring. That scene where Neo makes the decision between the red and blue pill, and then when he wakes up, his ass is in a uterus, a metal uterus, right? We get stuck on him as the hero. We get stuck on him, quote, as the one, right? And so we don't pay attention to anything that's, quote, background noise. But when Neo is, quote, rescued from this metallic womb, and the womb comes open and all the umbilical cords pop the fuck up off of him, you feel me? Right? And then the little space creature, the little robot, come and grab his ass up to, quote, rescue him, to, quote, free him. What's the first thing that he sees? as he opens his eyes, the first thing that he sees is a whole field, millions and millions and millions and millions. They show how all the people, white and brown and red, and all the people of the world, you feel me, are, quote, trapped in these black metallic wombs. I was like, metal ain't usually black. Why all the wombs got to be black? I was like, it's there in your real sight. That the matrix was the reduction of God into a metallic, faceless, nameless, soulless entity whose only job was to produce for the machine. The machine was not the matrix. The machine was the mother. The machine was the mother. The field was the mechanization of human beings, the mechanization of human beings that have uteruses in their body in general, and the mechanization of black uterus holding human beings in particular. Mechanized. No different than cows, where you see cows with little holes in their bellies with machines in them so they can get the milk faster and that shit. And these vegans and these animal fighters, Peter, can clearly say that we are opposed to the mechanization of life for the production of flesh food for human beings. But they will step over the bodies of black, brown, red, yellow, and even white women who have been mechanized from day one.
I say.
Because the purpose of mechanizing the female is to control the wealth that she inherently produces, which is the transforming of abstraction into a material force.
Okay.
This is why it becomes necessary to wipe your memory clean of the fact that you are God. Your blood is what every society on earth, even societies that have never met, the one thing they all have in common is the deification of female human beings because of the fact that it was mysterious that they would bleed from their bodies without a wound. Without a wound.
So they
saw this as magic.
Right. Oh,
not only that, according to this book, I got some books for y'all.
She was unclean at the time.
According to this book,
that's the book.
In matriarchal societies, there's no evidence in matriarchal societies, no evidence of ritual animal sacrifice.
Right on. You better say it. You better say it.
Because the only blood necessary and used for ceremony was the mother's blood.
Right on. Because it's regenerative. Yes. That blood has life in it.
Also, according to this book, on the other side of that is every culture, every culture on earth, including the Aborigines in Australia, have all developed male rituals, male rites of passage and male rituals that were all an attempt to mimic the mother's magical blood. Circumcision started out with the Canaanites turned Levitical Hebrews, the Canaanites wanting to reproduce the majesty of the mother's blood and circumcising the male child at the approximate age that females began their menstrual cycle. In Australia, the males would make an incision down the shaft of the male child's penis at around the same age and then keep the wound irritated so that it could bleed every month like the female child. Everywhere on earth, males attempting to reproduce the magic and mystery of mother's moon blood. That was the center of every religion. And so it was important that in the takeover of the father of the mother by the father, that everything had to be flipped upside down. Everything attributed to the mother's magic now becomes a magical, mystical power of the father. As a matter of fact, the moon blood is so deep that Jesus, when they hung Jesus up, quote, supposedly, when they hung Jesus up on the cross, you feel me? What does the King James Version Bible say about when the Roman put the little spear in his ribs? It said there was an outpouring of blood and water, mimicking the mother's birth-giving process, the outpouring of blood and water. Not only that, what did they call Jesus's wound in the Bible? They called it his vulva. They called his wound his vulva.
Say what?
It's right there in the KJV. That's what they call
That's
this wound.
crazy.
So all the way up until today, you see the Matrix and you think it's some revolutionary movie about overthrowing the system that controls and imprisons us. Oh, this movie is telling you, you must leave your mother. You must abandon your mother. And even if, quote, the real world is hard and burdensome and the food don't have no taste, you feel me? Isn't that what the little boy was complaining about? I have to imagine what the food tastes like, because this shit tastes like hell. You feel me? That it's terrible and all these terrible things, that at least you free. You free in the Father. Who is the Father? They tell it to you in your face. Morpheus is God the Father. His son, Neo, an anagram for the one, is He even dies crucified. He dies crucified. And then Trinity has the name. Trinity has the name of God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. You feel me? And so, here you go. Another movie by two previously white males putting forward that the only future that you can look forward to is the re-embracing of God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. As a matter of fact, the bad guy in the first Matrix was Cypher. We was like, damn, why Cypher betrayed the clique? You feel me? Why Cypher turned over on the homies? You feel me? Cypher said, look, I just saw a video today that Cypher means, the word Cypher actually means Lucifer. And that Lucifer was the messenger, the great messenger, right? Lucifer, the great messenger, the star of the morning. Who is the star of the morning? Who is the star of the morning? It's Venus. It's Venus.
Oh, of course,
it's
Venus.
the mother.
Right,
yes. Yeah. So here, Cypher, he was like, look, this real world shit, I ain't with it. He said, plug me back in. That's what he said. He said, I want to go back to my mama. That's what he said. We chalked him up as the bad guy. He said, this quote reality that y'all giving me, I ain't with it. I want to go back to my mama, where at least I'm somebody important in my mother's embrace. I'm somebody important. You feel me? The food tastes good. I know the steak ain't real, but it tastes good. The wine is lovely. I like this life tied back to my mama. Plug me back in. I'm just saying. It's everywhere.
Wow. That's
the initial attack on the uterus.
There was so much you hit. There was my head's spinning right now, because there was something that you said. I was like, hold on, I gotta remember that. It's gone now. Shit. Let me go into the chat. Let me look at the people in here. Listen, this is some fire. I gotta put my glasses on. I don't even know what to say. I'm speechless. You broke that down in such a mind-blowing, mind-boggling way. Never even thought about it that way. So, it was Lucifer. We were talking about Lucifer. Oh yeah, that's what it was. It was Venus. You saying Venus is the mother. Now, when Venus you were talking about the mother, hold on now. God, I'm
done. I'm quiet. I'm quiet.
Going back to the uterus. Uterus is the resemblance. When you look at Heru or Hathor, right? They call her that. The cow goddess, right? That's a representation of the uterus.
Yes.
So Taurus, the bull, right? The horns with the bull is ruled by the planet Venus.
Yes.
So when you're looking at what Venus represents in anatomy and physiology, now I know in medical astrology they'll say it's the kidneys, but when you show that diagram of what's in between those kidneys, right, or the lower back, they'll say that. But also, when you're looking at what's housing that sacred blood, it's the uterus, right? And it resembles, if you pull up that diagram, it resembles the cow, right?
Yes, that's why.
Yes,
our ancestors knew that. Our ancestors knew that.
They
that
knew
was deliberate.
Exactly. Look at that. Now, if you pulled up a picture of Heru, or they call her Hathor, and you look at her ears, right? They look just like, because they come out and they made it seem like she was extraterrestrial, whatever the case may be, and she has these like weird little ears. They look just like the fallopian tubes, how they extend out the uterus. So the point that I was making with that is how it correlates to astrology with Venus, when you said Lucifer, the bright morning star, and it's the mother, and mother is Taurus, and Taurus is the earth sign, or the goddess of fertility and things of that nature. So it's
I will say this. because that's one of the tropes, especially that like modern anthropologists and archaeologists make, is to quote reduce different faces of the goddess to quote a fertility goddess. Because when you look at Venus, no matter what her personification is, Venus as Inanna, Venus as Ashtar
Right.
or Ashtarth,
Yeah.
Venus as Oshun, Venus as Hathor, right? These were dynamic goddesses, right? And so white European anthropologists have historically reduced the significance of the goddess image to just being, quote, the holder of divine sperm. Like all you supposed to be out here doing is having babies.
Right.
You feel me?
Right.
And
Right.
that was a transition that was slowly happening as the patriarchy was taking over. But the other reason I mentioned that is because astrologically, Taurus being the first earth sign in the cycle, Taurus is the Garden of Eden. This story is replete throughout different cultures in history. That the reason that Venus rules the first earth sign is because Taurus. As a matter of fact, where does the Bible begin? The Genesis begins in the age of Taurus, right? And there's symbolism all throughout that first portion of the Old Testament. So when you're looking at the quote Holy Bible, the King James Version Bible, you're literally looking at an astrological document of one specific group of people and their transition through different ages, right? The age of Taurus being the beginning, Genesis, and where do they begin? In the Garden of Eden. Why? Because they're in the age of Taurus. You feel me? And then they move so on and so forth. Well, if you look anywhere, right? If you take the story of Oshun, yes, we always see Oshun because patriarchy reigns supreme right now. That's why we always see Oshun as sexy or topless or holding a mirror. And it's always, even with the mirror holding, they're like, oh, she just so in love with how beautiful she is. No, Oshun is a witch. Oshun is a witch. Not only is she a witch, she is the only reason that males have the ability to divine. Oshun is the reason that males have the ability to become babalao. She is scrying when she is looking in the mirror. She is performing witchcraft when she is looking in the mirror. You feel me? This radical reduction of who she is as a warrior, as a practitioner of dark arts, all of these, as one who champions righteous rage and vengeance. That's Oshun. But everybody want to see her in a mini skirt with her titties out. You feel me?
Right.
But,
exactly.
But the things that make her glorious is the fact that she is the owner of the earth. Oshun is the one that makes life on earth worth living, right? The arts, right? All things beautiful, music, and the arts, and exactly. So that's why you'll hear even a lot of astrologers talk about Taurus as the Garden of Eden, and this is what we're trying to recreate in learning astrology, is to bring us back to quote the golden age where the immortals walked on the planet with us and everything was harmonious and nobody starved and nobody wanted and nobody worked. This is what the golden age teaches. Is that everything was so plentiful, there was no need for labor to feed yourselves.
Wow.
You feel me?
Beautiful time, honey. Must have been a beautiful time.
And I will say one more thing about the last golden age, baby. According to Hindu tradition or the Vedas, according to Greek mythology, is that the last time that we experienced a golden age, the deity that was responsible for staying with human beings during this age and then into the Silver Age was the goddess Virgo. What was her name? Her astrological name is Astera. But she is the sign Virgo, who will rule. And they say that when the last age of man is over, she will return to Earth to rule a new golden age. Ain't that something? Now, even though
talk to you off air,
even though Virgo is ruled by Mercury, a lot of her likenesses being the only female human astrological sign is still akin to Venus. People still attribute a lot of her attributes to Venus. So here are these stories about the, because we talk about the Kali Yuga, but we're shifting out of the Kali Yuga, and what comes next,
Yeah.
right, is the new golden age. We have to establish that. We have to establish that.
Amen. Yes, indeed. Listen, I mean, you have my mind. There's a million things going on in here right now. So forgive me if I'm like go somewhere, because I'm like,
No, you're
you're
good.
triggering some things that happened to me like yesterday. Especially with the goddess name you just brought up. I gotta talk to you, but I'm sorry. Because I ain't saying this on air, but I'm like, what you said when you said her name? I was like, what did you? So no, let's get back to her for a minute. You saying, so she steps in as Virgo, right? Like when she comes through this archetype of goddess, so to
Yes.
speak.
Yes.
And what does she represent again?
Who? Virgo?
No.
Oh,
Astera.
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 Yeah. So according to the story, she did not become the constellation Virgo until she left Earth. So basically, the golden age was wonderful. It was amazing. There were so many inventions, all of this stuff. As we shifted into, now this is just philosophy, as we shifted into the silver age, men started to turn on one another. This is the philosophical explanation of the beginning of the patriarchal age. Men started to turn on one another. Their greed started to evolve, right? She lived, everybody else, all the other immortals left Earth. When the age of men started with the BS, all the immortals left the planet except her.
We out of here. Fuck this.
Except Astera. So she remained through the entire silver age, trying to shift humans back into this harmonious place. Once the shift was made from the silver age to the iron age, she was like, nah, y'all getting buck wild with it. Deuces. I'm out. Y'all work this out on your own. You feel me? Figure it out. She leaves Earth and becomes the constellation Virgo. And the prophecy is that once human beings go through these stages where they have to re-become like God themselves, that she would return to mark the beginning of the next golden age. The reason that this is really interesting to me,
this is phenomenal. I mean,
well, I'm gonna tell you why it's really interesting to me. It's because
this is a message that I needed to hear.
I'm gonna tell you, to be able to apply the mysteries to the real world in real time.
Yeah.
I was doing this like 2 or 3 part series on we were getting ready to enter into the Chinese New Year, the Chinese New Year of the serpent, the yin wood serpent or the yin wood snake. And so I was doing these preparations about, the significance of the snake in mythology and history and so on and so forth. And I ran across this information about the golden ages. I was like, let me revisit this and see if there's something significant. So this is on the date was January 29th, right? And baby, how about a day, maybe 2 days after we do these big ass ceremonies and and all of this stuff, prepping all my followers about what it is they need to do to prepare for this new moon in Aquarius that was also the beginning of the yin wood snake Chinese New Year, whatever.
Right.
2 days later, I wake up and the first thing I see is on my For You on my YouTube channel was Trump. They were highlighting like a speech, something from a speech that he had made. I think it was to like a room full of Christians or something. And he says, as of this day, we are walking in to a new golden age. I said, what the? 2 days after I did this whole deep dive on the golden age and the history of the golden age and what it promises at its reemergence. I'm telling you, this is important because we have these conversations as women and as people who support women about the inevitable reemergence of the one, the inevitable reemergence of the mother, welcoming, the re-welcoming the matriarchal age or whatever. And we have to make this thing tangible to human beings in real time. And I'm going to tell you, the reason that happened and the reason it was important is because always, since day one, patriarchy's period has been about 6,000 years. Since day one, the primary target of patriarchy has been uterus carrying human beings in general, and black uterus carrying human. So no matter what they talk about, no matter what war they're talking about, no matter what campaign, no matter what political policy, if you keep in your consciousness in real time, they are doing this because it is strengthening the assault on women, then it informs you about how you need to move differently. Because we can be chasing our tails about policy and oh my God, y'all, that's against the Constitution. Women need to be writing a new Constitution.
Anyway,
women need to be
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Which brings me to my next point of critical theory, right? So there's something that we need to be doing. We need to be moving. What is it?
I gotta.
What you got, Gemini again? What you
I gotta. There's something that I want to read before we move on from blood, okay?
No, we're not moving off of blood. We're not moving off of blood. We're staying on there because it ties into what I mean by the critical theory, right?
I want this little passage over the not 500 plus pages in this book remains forever.
Break it down for me. Go ahead.
All right. So it's talking about the significance of blood historically. She says, so the menstrual, let's see. The female body, which actually does these things, becomes an embarrassing threat to the male's metaphorical assumption of the blood powers of menstruation and childbirth. No male priest can compete with a woman in these areas. So menstruating women, so the menstruating woman is often totally excluded from group life, cast out to fend for herself. Blah, 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 blah. Hold on. Redefine, Okay. So this is all about like the growing taboos all over the planet about menstruating women, menstruating what? Women can't go into the temple or whatever. She says, this terrible and unnatural split. Let's see. Sorry.
No,
let me restart that. As Margaret Mead and others have shown, the more warlike and authoritarian a society is, the stronger its menstrual taboos. In such societies, a paranoid emphasis is placed on women's, quote, corrupting and debilitating influence, and men's need to overpower, dominate, and devalue her. Male training in aggression, listen, y'all. Male training in aggression is linked with taboos for both men and boys against any knowledge of or contact with women's natural functions. Women's natural functions. It would seem that when there is no acknowledgement of women's bleeding, then there is instead a male acting out of ritual and violent bloodshed in war. Warlike, aggressive male societies are in rivalry with women over which sex sheds the most sacred blood. War is men's response to women's ability to give birth and menstruate. All three are bloodshedding rituals. Women's blood rites give life, however, while men's bloody rituals give only death. To compensate for this, such authoritarian societies culturally repress and degrade women's blood functions while elevating murderous war to a holy act. The women's menstrual mysteries of inspiration become, in war god worshipping patriarchy, the mysteries of resisted knowledge, repression, and madness. Woo! Baby! Baby! Woo!
That's shit. Well, that explains it all. That explains the behavior. That explains why it's the bloodshed, the whole power of the bloodshed. Everything is surrounded by the sacred blood. If you can't do it, you gotta create it, right? So basically, if we can't produce this naturally, we know that the blood is sacred. We have,
but it's always going to be opposite.
Oh, absolutely.
It's always going to be opposite.
It's going to be reversed, and it's going to carry a more of a negative connotation to it. It's going to be murderous.
But
it's not healthy. It's not healing. It's in total opposition to what you're saying, to what we do naturally. But
but
what
the
you
other
said about it
this
being
this
a
passage.
taboo.
Well, you think about it. Like I was working for a long time with this organization that it was founded by this Indian woman who her whole organization was to address the deadly impact of menstrual taboos against young girls in third world countries. Girls who commit suicide, the high rate of suicide because of menstrual shame and menstrual taboos in African countries, in India, and in South Asian countries, where girls will stop going to school by the 5th grade or so once they start menstruating, because the taboos about, quote, bleeding on your pants, the shame, the ridicule that will drive these girls to commit suicide. Not only that, she talked about like social ostracization, if I said that right, of young girls, particularly in India, who suffer violently as a consequence of imposed religious imposed menstrual taboos. I mean, even now, it was, what was it, Obama that was acting brand new. He was like, oh my God, I didn't even know that we tax women for very necessary menstrual products. Like, what country do you live in? Don't you have 2 daughters and a wife? Have you never bought menstrual products and never wondered why they're so expensive? So it's like the menstrual taboos, even in Native communities. Let me tell you something. I went to a ceremony here in Southern California. A Native Americans called the Many Winners Gathering of the Elders. It was a really dope thing that they've been doing since '92, where they take indigenous elders from all over the world, from Fiji, from Hawaii. They take indigenous elders and they gather them for about 5 days at this place in San Pedro. And what the ceremony, they do actual ceremonies, but the primary focus is to audio record these stories that these elders are telling, so that they are cataloged and not forgotten as these elders transition. Dope. It's every day. It's sunrise, sweat lodge, sunset, sweat lodge, and all other bear ceremony and all other kinds of rituals, right? The first year that I went, I volunteered. And the thing that stood out right away was there was this yellow caution tape all over the place. It was like, oh my God, there's yellow caution tape, yellow caution tape, yellow caution tape. So I asked one of the sisters that was leading the thing, I was like, what's all the yellow caution tape about? She was like, anywhere there is yellow caution tape, bleeding women can't go. Bleeding women can't go. So they had what they called the moon tent. You feel me? The moon tent was like a leper colony. It was all off to the side. It was all away from all, like so bad that we could not hear what the elders were talking about in the arbor. You feel me? So we over there, we having to like crochet and come up with little things to do. You feel me? Because menstruating women cannot be around the rest of us, or your moon is so powerful it may make the rest of us sick.
So now that we know,
so those kind of taboos.
I get
one
you.
more. Let me just say, short. The other thing that this reminded me of was, it doesn't even have to be that deep. I remember being a little girl. I started my cycle at 9. My sister started her cycle at 10. And at that time, my mother remarried. And I remember her clear as day bringing us into the bathroom and telling us, okay, there's a man living in the house now. So we have to make sure that we always clean up after ourselves when we're on our cycle. He can never see blood. It was like blood, our bleeding was the dirty little secret that we had to protect my stepfather from. My mother would go off if we had like a pad, like rolled up but not wrapped in tissue. Like if we just rolled it up and threw it in the trash can and didn't take it out immediately, she would go off. So even our own social conditioning, even in our own bodies, was like, damn, it's my period again. We spend our whole life.
How do we reverse this?
By doing what we're talking about now, for one, is rehashing the true mystery of what the blood is. It's not just a reminder, quote, of our fertility, which is another trope imposed on us, that the only purpose of our cycle is to alert the rest of the world that we can still have somebody baby. Like this is the only significance that we have as
Yeah.
people born
Right.
with uteruses. Not
Yeah.
that the uterus itself is the only example that we have in the material realm of the ability to transform abstraction into a material force, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So, and
Yeah.
so those things like, you know, creating like I have a book here called The Red Tent. Now it's based on Hebrew tradition, but you know, there are people, you know, women's circles and stuff trying to reproduce the red tent, but like using the red tent or using quote rites of passage ceremonies to like teach something new to young girls about what their cycle is, what it means to them, what power it gives them, how they
Yeah.
can use it in the real world. Been
Yeah.
just starting as simple as that in your neighborhood, creating a rites of passage that is centered around that moment when we transition into our official maiden years, you know, as women, and what that means mythologically, what it means culturally and historically, and what it means in the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're giving a nice background on different cultures and what it means, and I love the diagram that you showed, because a lot of women that are here, we're looking for solutions, right? We know about all the trauma we suffering from trauma. We do need healing from that. But from what you were talking about, the power of the cycle that we have, and the thing, it's more than just preparing you for a baby, things
Oh
of that
yeah.
nature, right?
Yeah.
And this is what
Yeah.
we need to know. So
Yeah.
when we gave the example of, the men washing and remineralizing the waters with it, and then you have women who say this, like, I no longer bleed, right? So how can I, remineralize or refertilize or take part? Because there was a ritual that was done, or a call for a woman to do, because we're at this tipping point on the planet with, you can see there's a lot of things that are adverse to women. Men are going around shouting, not your body, my choice, right? And it's like the rights are taking away from certain women to do what you were saying earlier. This is my body. I can choose who's coming through this portal or not, right? They're trying to reverse all of these things.
Right.
So women need to know the certain things that you can do to help heal and change. And the reason why I wanted to connect it to critical mass is because the monkey effect, right? That one monkey start going to the water, you start washing his hand. Next thing you know, 100 monkeys doing. The monkeys all over the world are doing it. Women go on their cycles at the same time, they're living in the same house. That's for a reason, right? The synchronicity that's involved in it, following these moon cycles and understanding the lunar calendar and how it connects to your cycle. Now,
Right.
how to utilize your cycle as your ultimate power to help bring change and change the effect in the cycle, even to help usher in this golden age. Whereas we're in more of a position to have control, or bringing balance back to the planet, right? So, what are some of the things that you can suggest that women can do to help reestablish their position on what's going on the planet?
Okay. So there was so much I wanted to talk about, but I knew it was gonna be
Well,
a stretch.
I have another guest I want to bring on as
Okay.
well, and then I wanted to open up the floor to questions. So,
Okay.
and
Yeah, I
we
was
got
just
like
prefacing
two
by saying
hours.
I'm gonna try to keep it like very, very succinct.
Yeah,
One of
you
the
got it.
things that we have to our advantage that is greatly underutilized is the power of our throat, the power of our voice. Now, this is
Right.
a whole nother workshop that I could teach, but when you look, I want you all to Google images of the cervix, of your cervix, right? What your doctor sees when they look at your cervix, and then look at an image next to it of your vocal cords, of your larynx. Okay, when you put the larynx and the cervix next to each other, they are almost indistinguishable from each other.
Amazing. Look at that.
Almost indistinguishable
Undistinguishable.
from each other. The reason
Yeah.
that this is important is because
Uh,
when I go back and tell you that 5,000 years ago, some doctor in the emperor's court was trying to understand why the emperor's concubines were having very specific gynecological issues, you feel me? And he understood the relationship between the uterus and the heart, and then the heart and the throat.
Right.
He understood that, right? And here we can now see under a microscope that the cervix and the larynx look exactly the same under a microscope, right? And the uterus is directly tied to the power of our ability to do what? Take the secret desires of our heart, speak them out loud, and they become a material force. Now, in the book, the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, she talks about a concept called the mother's curse in this book. And the mother's curse in a lot of traditions, the first time I heard this word was in medical school. But the word is called miasm or miasma. In homeopathy, in the system of medicine called homeopathy, the miasm has been identified as the, quote, cause of all disease. Any disease, no matter what its name is, they're trying to find the miasm that caused the disease, right? And so that's the language that's used in homeopathy, and I'd never heard it used any other way other than medically. And then all these years later, I'm reading Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, and in spiritual spaces since the advent of time, the mother's curse was called the Great Miasma. Wow. What it said was that the miasm or the miasma was a, quote, spiritual pollution caused from a woman speaking from her mouth in pain. Harm done to a woman and she opens her mouth, she creates a miasm, a spiritual pollution that can, quote, transfer from generation to generation to generation. So when I talk in the temple about the very real necessity of we women needing to conduct a global exorcism, that the only thing that's going to save the planet is to exorcise the demon of patriarchy from human existence. How do we do that? There are so many images all the way back to the Stone Age period, what we call the Stone Age, right? 250,000-year-old cave drawings of women all over the planet, of women with their hands raised in groups, with their hands raised and their head up in like little lines that look like vibrations coming out of their mouth, and hovering above them is what looks like a giant stone that neither of them could raise on their own, but they use the vibration of their voice to levitate stones. There's some theories that that's how Stonehenge was created, was not through manual labor, was through the power inherent in the bodies of women. You feel me? Sonic waves. And I'm saying that especially now when you're talking about critical mass theory, and you're talking about, you know, the theory of the 100th monkey, you know, what's his name? Bruce Lipton talks about, because he was a Western scientist, but he said in the book, The Biology of Belief, he talked about in his mind, based on, you know, the research in quantum physics and all of this stuff, string theory and all of this other stuff, that it would only take 10% of the global population to accept and internalize a new idea for that idea to impact the entire planet. This is why the age of Aquarius is so significant. The age of Aquarius is the first air sign age that we have transitioned into since before the Bible. The Bible, like I said, began at the age of Taurus. What was the age before it that they just conveniently disappeared? It was the age of Gemini, the last air sign age that we were in. And it is the age of Gemini, where it is believed where all the great megaliths around the world were erected was during the last great air sign age, the age of Gemini, right? So here we are. What alerts us because there's all these debates about our entry into the Aquarian age, but what alerts me about our official entry into the Aquarian age was understanding science, understanding history, and the repetition of patterns. Oya, the goddess Oya, which y'all call Pluto, y'all call the planet Pluto, you feel me? We just moved through 2 years of Oya's transition through Capricorn, which was America's first return, right? And that transition through Capricorn into the sign Aquarius that transition ended and began the new transition on November 19th of 2024. Me and many of the women who were on this call did a blood ritual on that night to welcome Oya's reign for the next 20 years up in this piece. You feel me? So when you look at our relationship to our heavenly siblings, the planets, right, through your own peculiar worldview, mine is West African. And so I see the planet Pluto as Oya, and I have a different worldview and understanding about her relationship to us. I see the sign of Aquarius, ruled by both Uranus and Saturn, as Shango. Now you start to read the stories, the patriarchies about the relationship between Shango and Oya. You get a new idea about what these planets and their very long transition represents for us. Plus, it's happening within the context of a Chinese dragon new year that we just transitioned out of into the year of the snake. Now, once you see the world through your own peculiar relationship, your cultural worldview, whether that's Mexican or Azteca or Mayan or wherever, you learn what your ancestors had to say about our relationship as Earth. Not us on Earth, us as Earth. We, the whole planet as one, as Earth, and our relationship to our heavenly siblings. It gives you a new perspective to which you can communicate with those siblings. We communicate to the heavenly bodies with a language that's patriarchal, that is oppressive, that is dominating. And so we get back what we give, right? We get back what we give. And so when we change our worldview, that's how this I'm not an astrologer, but what I do understand is history. What I do understand is patterns, and I do understand how these stories, these religions, and all of this are they're just the anthropomorphization of real world instances. And if we can shift to see how Pluto, aka Oya, how Shango, aka Saturn. Who is Saturn? Saturn is the great mother crone. Not only is Saturn great mother crone, right? Who was stolen by the Greeks, and they didn't even bother changing her name. They just changed her. They gave her a sex change. They just gave her a sex change. You feel me? Yeah. So great grandmother crone not only is on the move right now, but guess what the planet was that gave us the light of illumination in the last golden age? It was the black sun called Saturn.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's deep.
Yeah. So everything is making a full cycle.
Yeah.
The mother returns.
And Oya, the owner of the number 9, she who is the owner of the mask, who governs human breathing. Right? She governs the breath.
In that pantheon that you're talking about.
Yes. She is there at the moment that we are conceived, and she is there at the moment that we transition. Right? Now, when you're talking about mathematically or numerologically, the number 9 is what? It is the simultaneous beginning and ending of all things, the alpha and the omega. It is the culmination of all of the attributes of the prior number. 9 holds attributes of all the other numbers that come before it. It is the great personification, right? So it is really an epic time to be alive if you have the information that can allow you to grab a hold of the reins of power. But if you don't know what it is you're working with, you can't make the appropriate moves. The plasma that makes up the menstrual blood, this is mine, right? The plasma that makes up the menstrual blood, right? There is not a culture on earth that has not acknowledged the power, the unexplained to this day power of the menstrual blood. You've heard the word ambrosia in Greek mythology, how ambrosia was the nectar of the gods. Guess what it was? Menstrual blood. When the man, there's documentation. There's males that once they were able to, because all the temples were run by priestesses. Males were not allowed. As a matter of fact, the term hermaphrodite, right, that's supposed to represent, a person that's both male and female. Guess where that term comes from? The story of Mercury. We know him in Greek as Hermes. Hermes was a consort of Aphrodite, right? This same story is in E5. That's why all of these stories, all these religious stories, are astrological stories. The same story is in E5 with Oshun's relationship to Alegba, Eshu, right? So in Greek mythology, Hermes, his mother or his consort, was Aphrodite. And Aphrodite in her temple only allowed female practitioners, female priestesses, because the knowledge that she gave was so valuable that if males had access to it, they would misuse it. Males were forbidden to study in the temple. So what did Hermes, her son, do because he was mad because he couldn't gain access to the space? He disguised himself as a female to bum rush the temple to learn all the secrets of his mother. This is where the term hermaphrodite comes from, is Hermes' betrayal of Aphrodite.
Look at that.
He had to become a woman in order to gain access to the secrets.
Trickster. That's interesting because Mercury has names as the trickster, duality. And it's a neutral sign, or it can be, well, when you look at Gemini energy, the twins, right? It's duality. So it's very interesting, that story, that how you put that in the mix. I never thought about Hermes and Aphrodite and putting the two words together. It coming up with hermaphrodite.
Well, think about Oshun, the story.
As a woman to go into the.
Think about the story of Oshun. Oshun was the only female, according to the story, was the only female sent to Earth by Olodumare with the other male Orisha, the 7 African powers. But Oshun
was
the only
trying to play her, right? Like she wasn't even important, right? And they were trying to discount her power. And then she she went away, or somewhere she went into a cave. I don't know the whole story about it, but and took away all the beauty and love of she took away the love from the planet. And when they found, I guess when what was it Obatala?
Yep.
Was the one that was, when he found out what was going on, he was like, what's going on here? And commissioned her back. It wasn't.
No, that was Olodumare. That was Olodumare. Okay. What happened was, you got it. You got most of it right. Like, she had an attitude because Oshun is easily offended according to the tradition, right? And so everybody was, being real shiesty. That's why when black people talk about how patriarchy didn't exist in Africa till we met white people, that's a lie from hell. That's a lie from hell. And so
it originated there.
She was like, "Oh, okay, y'all don't need what I got going on." And here she is. She is the owner of all fresh water. She is. She has the secrets for all illnesses that cannot be healed by herbs. Right. She is the governess of the honeybee. Right. She is the the purveyor of all things beautiful. Right. Yeah. We know scientifically that if the honeybee disappeared tomorrow, all life on Earth would cease to exist within a year. Right? So she was like, "Oh, y'all don't want to listen to me. Y'all don't want my feedback. Y'all don't want me in the meetings. That's cool. I am going to go to the moon." So she took her and all her gifts to the moon. This story exists in other places, China, Japan. Yeah. So she, goes to the moon. She's like, "All right, school, you guys. Y'all got it. Y'all the men. Y'all got it. Okay, cool." And as soon as she left, everything started to rapidly fall apart. They go back to Olorun. They're like, "Look, Olodumare, we did everything you said to do, and ain't nothing working. You feel me? Like, how you gonna send us down here to prepare the earth for humans, and ain't nothing working?" And he was like, "One of y'all is missing. Where's Oshun?" And they were like, "Well, she had an attitude, and so she went to the moon." And they was like, and Olodumare said, "Well, what y'all gonna do is take y'all asses back to the earth, and y'all are going to beg for Oshun's forgiveness. What y'all are going to do is make offerings to Oshun and pray that she come back." She came back, but she told him, "I have not forgiven you. I'm going to do what Olodumare says, but I got an attitude." She said, "What I'm going to do is make myself pregnant. And you better hope that this baby in my womb is a male, because if this baby is born female, there will be hell to pay." That's what she said. And so at that moment, Obatala, the drunken, isn't that something? The drunken. The one responsible for the misshapen and the afflicted. Obatala sees into her womb and sees that the baby that she is carrying is female. and takes his hand into her womb and changes the sex of the child from female to male, and this becomes who we know as Elegba, aka Eshu, the owner of the crossroads,
right
the great communicator between heaven and earth. Yes, that's the
wow.
yeah, baby.
Welcome everybody to my girls, Mahogany Muse in the building.
Peace, sister. How you doing?
Come on in here. Your mic is muted. Your mic is muted. I don't think you can hear. We can't hear you. Can you see us? Your mic is muted.
Your mic is muted. Your microphone. We can't hear you.
My bad. I've been modding, so I was on mod duties. I was trying to, check out what was going on in the comments there. But hello, thank you so much, Cassandra, daughter of the Fates. So I thought my life was going very well, but then tonight I realized a sacred thing had been kept away from me. So I am very happy to meet you. Very happy to meet you. I mean,
thank you so much, sis.
My goodness, my goodness.
Imagine. My head's spinning. Like I just threw away the paper because I was like, I'm dumbfounded right now. Nothing. Just let this. What's your Gemini? Because the Gemini was rocking. I was like, you know what?
You talking about me?
Yeah,
you talking Virgo Sun, Capricorn Moon, Gemini Rising. Yes.
Oh, fellow Cap Moon here.
Oh, yes. I've been doing a hella walk with my Capricorn placement, baby.
I'm a Taurus Sun, though. Taurus Sun, Cap Moon, Pisces Rising.
You know what I always say?
Tropical placements go.
These double Earth signs, we some weighty bitches.
Wow.
We some weighty bitches.
Oh my goodness, that's what's up. Hey, no, you grounded, you practical.
Yes.
Y'all bring into Earth signs are what would we do without the Earth? We're on Earth.
True.
Right?
True.
Right? We need the stability, we need the foundation, we need the structure, we need the order out here. Right, so you brought it all. Shit. Before I can't wait to play this thing again. Like,
before I knew anything about it, I used to say all the time, like, Virgos are going to save the world. I used to say that as a kid. Didn't know nothing about astrology, but I was like, look, we the masters of all trades, can see all the things that people can't see. You feel me? I was like, Virgos are going to save the world. Then I read just a few weeks ago about the next golden age being ushered in by the sign of Virgo. I was like, well, come on in. Come on in the room.
Come on in the building. You want to chime in? What you got, Sig? What can you add to the conversation?
Girl.
Nothing.
I'll add to the conversation. She just dropped it. She just dropped all the mic. What I can say is I've been taking some notes because as much as I'm a good teacher, I'm also a great student. So I've been taking some notes. I'm going to have to go back to her YouTube channel, subscribe to her channel.
Love that. Love that.
Absolutely.
So I just know I had to pick up some things.
Yes,
I had to whip out the SiStar, the great Black Mama of Creation. And had to whip out the biology of belief because we talk about epigenetics by Bruce Lipton.
Come on in the room. Okay. Yes, love that.
Okay, and then of course,
thank you.
The encyclopedia the Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets. Okay,
hold on. Let me give you a solo on that. Show those books again for the people who may want to be able to, pick up some of these books because it's very important that they have these books in their arsenal. So, the Great Black Mama. Go ahead.
Yes, this is the Great Black Mama of Creation by SiStar. It's a thin book, but the information that's in it.
Ginormous.
Yes. Another one is the Sibyls, and I was just trying to look on my bookshelf. I got several bookshelves, so I'm not sure. I was looking for the color of it on the edge, but it's white. So the Sibyl, these two books, they go together, okay?
Yes.
So this is Sibyl's, the First Priestess of Mami Wata by Mama Zogbe, of course. of
Yeah.
course,
Stay with us. Got
cornerstone.
that evidence. Yeah.
The Biology of Belief by Bruce
Mm,
Lipton. This talks about epigenetics. So when
wow.
Yes.
when they were having the discussion about what to do and how do we change things, well, the main thing is understanding how your thoughts create things and how that has a lot to play in with what your body does. So getting in alignment with, she said your uterus, your heart, your
Mm,
throat, whatever
mm,
we manifest through our uterus. We can bring humans and beings on the planet, right? But we also
Yes.
manifest, as she said, with our mouth. So there you go.
right. Yeah.
The
Yeah.
other book,
Yeah.
this is a great
Interesting.
resource book, a great resource
Yes.
book. There's a sister book to this one.
Hold that up to the camera.
I had to pull the sister up.
Oh, sorry.
I'm trying to get it out the glare of this ring camera. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets by Barbara
Yes.
G. Walker. It's a
Mm.
thick book. Mine is old. It's falling apart, but I'm going to keep it together. Okay.
Hey, that's all right.
So the
Continue.
sister companion to that book, also by Barbara G. Walker, is the Women's Dictionary of Sacred Symbols and Objects.
Mm.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Now,
The arsenals.
this one right here. Her Blood is Gold.
Mm.
Yep.
Reclaiming the Power of Menstruation by Laura Owen.
Wow.
This is a good book.
That's it.
This is
Yeah.
a good book.
I don't have that one. I need to get that one. I definitely need to get that one. How come everybody ain't back in here? Where everybody at? There we
I'm
go.
here.
There we go. There we go.
So
How are y'all feeling out there? Everybody in the chat. How are you feeling about what's the information that you're getting? Do you have any questions? I do have room to bring some other people on. I did say I was going to open up the floor to bring in some guests. So we're gonna do that as I'm gonna let the daughter of Fates continue on with her point that she's about to make. But I just wanted to interject right quick to let the people know who's listening. Once again, thank you for tuning into the Stella Maris Podcast. We are definitely going to be doing more of these conversations. Make sure you like, share, and hit the subscribe button. And make sure you follow the sisters that's in this on the program right here on the panel. I'm a loss for words, and it's kind of rare for me to be lost for words. I normally have a lot to say, but right now I'm just gonna play the back, you know what I'm saying? And let the information continue to flow. I'm gonna post the banner if you wanted to get on the show. All right. So I'm gonna post it up here, and I'm gonna go ahead and let Sister Cassandra go ahead and do her thing as I look for that. But once again, thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for checking us out. I just dropped the link right there if you wanted to get on the panel and have a few things that you wanted to drop in. So go ahead, Cassandra. Go ahead.
So, Sister Mahogany, I appreciate you so much. And it's like I'm always looking for, quote, what I call the evidence of the web. The evidence of the web. We weavers of human destiny. We fates, right? And so when these kind of interactions happen, every book except Her Blood is Gold, I always teach. As a matter of fact, before you came up on here, I was teaching from. And so on my channel, and I would encourage everybody to come follow my channel because the algorithm is not kind to me. You feel me? It's not kind at all.
Sure. Yeah.
And all of those books that you pointed out, except Her Blood is Gold, the Sibyls, I have read the whole book on my YouTube channel. So you can check out that. These are playlists that are on my channel. The Great Black, what happened to the sister?
I don't know. She dropped off.
I don't know.
A call dropped. But she'll be back. Don't worry about it. She's out there.
The Great Black Mama of Creation. Even if you don't have the book, go and check out. I read the whole book on my YouTube channel. The Great Cosmic Mother. That's a journey. That ain't no short read. I read that whole. It took us 6 months to get through that book, but I read the whole book, The Great Cosmic Mother. On my YouTube channel. I've read a great majority of Barbara G. Walker's books. The Women's Encyclopedia of Myths and Secrets, which I mentioned earlier, and the Women's Dictionary of Symbols and Sacred Objects, which I wanted to, mention a little more in this feed, but it might have to be another time. Also, the next book we're about to start reading actually this weekend is the Parable of the Talents. So I read the Parable of the Sower on my YouTube channel last year, which was crazy because I'd never read the book, never read a book by Octavia Butler, I'm ashamed to admit. And so I was like, this is going to be the first book. And I opened up the front page and the page just says January 2024. And we cracked the book open in January 2024. I was like, wow. Oh, oh shit, right? So we did that. We're starting the Parable of the Talents on Sunday. And there are several other books that I've read. So in The Great Cosmic Mother, which I tell everybody that's what you have to start with. If you are like me and you have both kind of like us Western, come on in the room then. Come on in the room. Now, what I have to tell you, those of you who already have it, let me tell you how I had to teach this book. So I did about 6 months of, we called it a book club, but it was more political education. And the easiest, because I'd read this book 3 times before reading this book online, reading this book live. And when I was getting ready to teach, to lead the book club discussions from this book, I was very frustrated. There were like major points that I wanted to come back to. I was like, well, how preachers do this shit? I was like, oh, so I had my students, I'm telling you, it changes the game. I'm like, shit, we should do every book like this. But I broke it down into sections, right? Ugh, the glare. But I broke it down into sections. And then I went through the whole book. It took me about 3 days. But just like your Bible's got numbers by each verse under each chapter, I did The Great Cosmic Mother the same way. And so you can see my little tabs and everything. So it just made getting through this book a lot easier because there are gems, giant gems in this book. And yes, so there are a lot of books that I've read, and that's the easiest way. We live in a society where so much information is coming to us so fast that I will still go back and listen, like if I'm stuck in traffic or whatever, to reads that I did 4 years ago from The Great Cosmic Mother, and something stands out as foreground that was just background noise when I first read it. And this, I believe, especially her trek through history, let me tell you, I was an atheist when I read this book. Not only was I an atheist, I was an African internationalist, communist, black nationalist atheist when I read this book. And when my homegirl gave me the book, the title is The Great Cosmic Mother, Rediscovering the Religion of the Earth. I was like, this don't sound like no shit I want to read. I was like, this sounds like some hippie shit. You feel me? I was like, sis, why you give me this? I'm a scientist, you feel me? I'm in medical school, you feel me? Like, this don't, and it's written by 2 white women, a woman from Portland and a woman from Sweden. They ain't got nothing they can tell me about anything I need to know about my black ass experience. I told my homegirl, I was like, I don't need this book. Give it to somebody who will read it. She said, no, you need to read this book. I was like, I tell you what, I will give the book 1 chapter. So when you talk about extra left-brained, left-brained, right? All the sciences, if I can't prove it empirically, I'm not interested. I said, I'll give this book 1 chapter. If it don't draw me in 1 chapter, I'm closing the spine on this book and I'm never opening it again. And Barbara Moore kicked the doors in on the whole 580 something page book in that very first chapter. Like when the first chapter, which is in the beginning, we are all female. In the beginning, we are all female, right? And it's just nothing but straight science and biology, and like this is where we at. You feel me? The book is amazing, and that's the starting point as far as I'm concerned. There's another discussion, and then mentioning that there are 2 books that were referenced in this book. I've been actively trying to buy all the reference material from this book. But Mary Daly, the first 2 books that she referenced from Mary Daly, I bought those and read those on my YouTube channel, Pure Lust. And the second one is Beyond God the Father and Towards a Future of Women's Liberation. And there's a lot of controversy about Mary Daly, you understand? And we plow through them. Well, Mary Daly she began as a hardcore, devout Roman Catholic. She went to seminary school, got her PhD in theology, was teaching theology at Boston, Massachusetts. Like, she was a Catholic, and her whole idea was, as a woman, in the 60s and into the 70s, I'm gonna, change the system from inside. I got to go to seminary, you feel me, and learn how I can give women more access,
Right.
you know, whatever. And then she goes to school, you know, for seminary and Roman Catholicism and theology and shit, and realizes, oh, there ain't no change in this thing. And in a very short period of time, went from devout Roman Catholic teaching the catechism to radical lesbian feminist in no time.
Foul face out here.
Like hard. But I love the way she writes. She has contradictions because she is white and female, and there's only so much of a level of there's a stopping point to how progressive white women can be in a world that has been shaped not only by patriarchy, but this most expressed personification of patriarchy being white and male. You feel me? And so because of white women's proximity both to the oppressed and the oppressor class, they have always had a very peculiar relationship to the rest of us, and it only allows them to go so far into how progressive they will. And she shows that, not often, but she does show that in at least these two writings of hers.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, everybody that exists on this earth comes from the mother. They come from well, there's a point that I'm making. Because even in their inherent weaknesses as white and female, that does not mean that the mother won't have her way with them. And because I get it. I was one of the ones. I said, what can a white woman from Sweden in Portland teach me about my black ass experience, about black ass life? You feel me? And they couldn't. Yes. But what they could do was heed the call that was coming to Barbara Moore. I talked to her daughter on the phone, Barbara Moore's daughter. She said, I've never read my mother's book because it represented such a terrible time in our lives. My mother was so convicted to write this book that we lived in our car for years. Wow. For years. So she could write this book. You understand? She said, you reading the book online is the first time I've even heard the contents of my mother's book. Thank you so much. Right?
Sacrifice.
Excuse me?
The sacrifices that people make to share information to help others.
But to me, it was deeper. It was her heeding the mother's call. Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that regardless. So there are a lot of people. I've lost a lot of followers reading Mary Daly's work because she did have flaws, right? But it doesn't take away not only from the writings, especially Pure Lust.
So let me ask you. You said her writings were contradictory.
Not contradictory, controversial.
Controversial. Oh,
yes.
Okay. Because I was wondering.
Not contradictory.
With her writings, controversial. Her conflict.
No. Okay. She was representing. For me, she was representing an ideology that was bourgeoning because she was considered one of the outspoken thinkers of the second rise of feminism coming out of the late 1960s and into the early 70s. And that was being spearheaded by white women, not just white women, white radical lesbians. The majority of what was being articulated as feminism during the second wave was being led by radical lesbian white feminists. And being that camp being where she was, she had not a lot, but she did have sections in her book, especially Beyond God the Father, where we had to pump the brakes on Mary for a minute. I was like, we might need to close this book. You feel me? Sorry.
You went all the way in, basically.
Hold on just a second. My headphones fell out of my ear.
No, but fine. I'm just saying,
the thing is there were several, and then also this was also the period where gender politics was really making they were showing their face. Gender politics had been just so completely hidden. So this whole idea of, at that time, transvestitism is what they called it at the time. She was extremely opposed to what she saw as the last ditch effort of, quote, people born male to enter into the sacred spaces of females, using transvestitism as the instrument through which they were doing that. So she had a hard line. But again, even when I was reading these books to, the people who are at least listening, that two things have to happen. we have to put it in the context with which she existed, in which these ideologies were being presented, right? That we all have the ability to evolve in our thinking. One.
Right.
Two is that there were a few people who were like, you know, why you keep reading all these books by these white women? I was like, first of all, I did a whole series called The Reclamation of What Is Ours. That white women, white people, white men have maintained a certain level of privilege of access to information that has been denied us. And while I will still read great black thinkers, I am not going to, again, after my introduction to the great cosmic mother, I will never be one to say, oh, they white, they ain't got nothing they can teach me. They have held a hegemony over information, our information, most of the time, and then put their white worldview on top of it for the better part of 2,000 years. It is our responsibility to reclaim what is ours. And so while I'm reading Beyond God the Father, and she's saying some bullshit and ass bullshit, you feel me, that I have to stop and check. I have to stop in the reading and say, okay, let's go through why what she just said is problematic and superimpose that on how we apply this now, because she said it in 1973. But what does it mean to us as women? What does it mean to us as black women, or what have you, who want to put our issues on the forefront for a change, instead of in black spaces and in white and feminist spaces being told that our blackness is not the issue, that we're, because Mary Daly's thing is we are, quote, the egalitarian society of women. No, boo, that's not accurate. That's not an accurate assessment. You feel me? And so this is where it becomes problematic. That her idea in general was that if women all band together as one, you know, as the egalitarian society of women, you feel me, as the race of women, you feel me, then, and put everything on the back burner, that then there will just be this magical transformation and destruction of patriarchy. Well, that's the same thing that I learned when I was in the Black Power organizations, Black Power movements. It's like, black woman, you know, I know that your peculiar brand of exploitation and oppression is peculiar to you, but you know what we have to do is band together as black people first, you feel me? Let us men lead, you feel me? And then once we set off the revolution, you feel me, and make everything right, because you know patriarchy didn't exist until we met white people, you feel me? So once we win the revolution and y'all just had our babies, you feel me, then all these issues that we got amongst each other, you feel me, will just magically disappear. They were saying the same dumbass shit.
The lies they tell.
And it always requires for black women to be silent, to be invisible, to be unseen.
That part.
And the fact of the matter is if anybody in the world, I don't care what your bag is, I don't care what your movement is, if you're serious about changing the world in any way, say your bag is just saving the whales. You just want to save the whales. You feel me?
We need to save us, but go ahead.
I'm saying metaphorically, say your bag is saving the whales. That's your bag. That's your lane. You feel me?
Right.
I'm sorry. You are not going to save the whales until you face the thing that everybody on earth is trying their hardest to not face. It is that you have to return to the center. And at the center, all roads lead to that center. That center is black and female. You ain't making a contest with white power. You are not making a contest with patriarchy until you return to the mother. That is it. That is all. Everything identifiable as an ism on earth today has its origin in this contest staged against the mother by her sons gone rogue.
Well,
everything.
So, okay, I'm gonna have to throw a curveball in here, right?
I
wanted the sister to join us because she didn't.
I'm shutting up for the rest of the time. I ain't saying nothing else.
No. There was another.
How you gonna do that?
No, because I could go off. I'm sorry. No, I want to hear what the sister has to say.
You're good. But there's a point that I wanted to make that someone brought to my attention about where all of this went wrong.
Okay.
And it was really amazing, her perspective. She was saying men are a reflection of what that woman was feeling at the time when it's like, okay, so we'll say that when men were born, men are the inverted version of women, or some will say the degenerative version. You know, they're inside out. They have breasts, but they don't have mammary
I got
glands,
you.
or, you know,
I'm
things of that
following.
nature, right? So she was like, why do you think, in a way, I'm paraphrasing, why do you think that is? It was like, there was something, what if there was something going on with her internally, that she was had a bitterness about herself or anger about herself, and women were turning on other women with jealousy, anger, all the lower qualities, or the lower frequencies or energies of us, our shadow selves, right? I mean, this is her perspective, right?
No,
Our shadow
I'm
selves.
following. I'm following.
So
I'm like
so
itching in my pants. Let's
so
go.
as she gives birth to him, that's his nature, right? For him to be adverse to her, because she was adverse with herself. So when she starts to love herself again and put herself first, if she don't put herself first, how can he put her first? When she doesn't put herself first, how is he gonna love her more when she don't even love herself, right? So he's reflecting the side of her that she didn't want to deal with, or the side of her that she despised within herself, right? What do you say to that? What do you say to that type of perspective that she has?
You want to go first, sis? What do you call it when
Go
you
ahead,
yield
somebody.
to
Let
somebody
me.
else?
Yeah, I thought
The
that was a
daughters of
very
the fates
interesting
is
thing
gone.
that she said.
What she say? What you say, sis?
Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, when we talk, I want to go back to Chinese medicine for a minute. So this symbol here, right, that everybody recognizes as the yin and yang, right?
Yeah.
And you'll hear all kinds of overly simplistic explanations about what this symbol means. First of all, we only see this symbol this way, right? Two-dimensionally. This symbol is a 5-dimensional representation of the entire universe. Everything in the universe is yin and yang. It is ever present in everything, from the microbe to the rock to whatever. Everything is made up of yin and yang. It represents the totality of yin and yang. Some people call this the cosmic egg, right? Some people call this the duality of the Pisces, two fish mutually consuming one another. This is the origin of all that is, this symbol right here. And it is 5-dimensional. Okay? So past, present, future, all potentialities through every possible dimension. This is what this symbol represents. In this symbol, the black downward facing aspect of the yin is the mother. It is the ever presence of the black primordial abyss, that even through all the sheets of galaxies and stars, there is still this black sheet, mass sheet of stone cold blackness that metaphorically gave birth to everything that is, right? In Chinese medicine, this symbol, the story to explain how yin and yang shows up in our body, in our flesh, how to use this symbol to diagnose and treat human beings. The yin, who is what? The mother, the moon, earth, water, dirt, all the things that are of rich blood, fluid, bone, all the things, right? This symbol here is said to be the representation of the mother's power. In this relationship between yin and yang, it is said that yin gives birth to yang. Yin generates yang, gives birth to yang, and in return, yang invigorates the mother. This is a mother-son relationship, no different than the one that I showed you in the 5 elements. It is a harmonious relationship between mother and son. Now, the reason that because people ask me this, why don't none of this stuff talk about the daughter? Because from the beginning of human beings on this earth, the daughter is the mother. Before the mother gave birth to the first male ever, right? She was a spontaneous, asexual procreator through a process called parthenogenesis. And every mythological story says the same thing. She turned in on herself and put a snake in her belly, and there came the first son, and this son became her lover. Why? Because her daughter is her. Her daughter is her, you see.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And so, this story is actually in the Bible,
Wow.
by the way. When the Bible talks about Jezebel and how Jezebel got pregnant with a divine son, and when that divine son became a man, she married the son. You feel me? This is a retelling of this old story of the first male that the mother generated from her own body. That's why the distinction. The mother gives birth to the son, and in return, the son's energy is exuberant. Yang is male. Yang is testosterone. Yang is the actual sun. Yang is light. Yang is air. We know we need it. We know we can't breathe without it, but it's intangible. We see fire. We see the evidence of fire, but we can't smell it, touch it, taste it. We can't grab it.
Right.
All we can do is see the evidence.
I'm getting on this. Okay.
I'm getting to that. Because in this story, in the European hog tying of this story, where this image no longer represents a harmonious relationship between mother and son, or generative force and stimulating force, now this symbol becomes evil, and this is good. You feel me? And it's in our face. Here,
what changed that? What changed that dynamic?
Well, it's the slow move through the patriarchal process. So when I'm talking about patriarchy and its origins, what we live in now is what I call the age of the desert. The reason why is because white supremacist patriarchy is the last apex stage of all of the phases of patriarchy that we've existed through. Patriarchy ain't always been white. Patriarchy has been black and male. It's been Indian and male. You feel me? And so the last stage of this process is the youngest male on earth, which is white, right? And the personification. So here in this theory where there's no yin present. See, this is harmonious yang, where there's a little bit of yin anchoring, right? Up here, which is represented in Chinese theory as high noon in the desert. So you have a sundial. There's no shadow cast at high noon. Right? There's no, so the shadow is yin, right? So in high noon in the desert, where there's no yin present, is represented by this cross. Isn't that interesting? That this theory is 6,000 years old. The white people get a hold of it and say the cross is all things what? Positive, which is this symbol, positive, good, and all things negative is down here. What? This is midnight on a dark moon, or midnight, where there's no light reflecting off the moon. This is the time of the divine mother, the great creatrix before she created anything. You feel me? And so here, they take the cross, right, represented by what? God the Father, God the Son, and God the Holy Spirit. This is white supremacy in real time, the age of the desert. You in the desert at high noon with no yin present, no water, no shade, no nothing, right? The question that I ask people all the time is, if your ass is in the desert, right? And it's noon and your canteen is now officially empty. Are you praying for more light? Are you praying for more light?
Yeah, you praying for more water.
No, you praying for fluid.
You are praying for all things yin. You praying for shade. You praying for a tree. You praying for some water. You like, oh my God, I can't wait till the sun go down. I can't wait to see the moon, because at least there'll be some dew early in the morning. I can lick off something, off a rock or something. You're praying for all things yin. This becomes a metaphor that can be used politically. If you're living in the age of the desert, where the yang, so Lao Tzu, who came up with this, says that the yang, its nature is destructive. Yang, anywhere in the universe, its nature is destructive. That the only thing that makes it life affirming, life beneficial, because it doesn't create. It can benefit, but it does not create. It does not generate. You see? That yang in its nature is destructive. And the only thing that harmonizes it is to be anchored by its mother. To be anchored by its mother. You see? And so in a world ruled by white male patriarchs, this son gone rogue, metaphysical, SON and SUN, gone rogue, when the sun goes rogue, when the sun is not anchored by its mother, according to the medicine, according to the philosophy, you feel me? Then what it does is, what it destroys in its destructive nature is all things yin. You want to explain the hole in the ozone layer? That's the sun gone rogue. You want to talk about the oil spills and the destruction of rainforest. You want to talk about the poor whales and the goddamn whales and the dolphins beaching themselves because the geomagnetic field has been disrupted by this bullshit. You are talking about the sun gone rogue and its attack on its mother, the personification of its attack, its destructive nature imposing itself on the yin. And so in Chinese medicine, if you have an imbalance, a disharmony. So when I'm explaining living in the time of the desert, then this part here, that's the yang, if you could visualize it, it would be much bigger, and the yin, right, would be real skinny down here, just beat up by the sun, right? So in Chinese medicine, if you have a disharmony that is, so say, if you have a disharmony that is like too hot, because that's what living in the desert is. It's too hot. How do you remedy it? We call it the treatment through the harmony of opposites. So if the condition is hot, blazing out, we call it blazing out of control, then you have to take its extreme opposite to bring it back to center. It has to be treated by its opposite to be harmonized. So when I talk about this, God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit, this period that we have been living in for the last 2,000 years of Catholicism and Christianity primarily, but all three of the Abrahamic religions, Islam, Judaism, but figureheaded by white male domination, right?
Yes.
That and so this personification is who? God the Father, God the Son, God the Holy Spirit. This Jesus. He's represented by the cross, right? And so when you're even reading the goddamn Revelations, it was an epiphany that I could only have having gone to medical school for Chinese medicine. That this is the Christ. And if this is the Christ represented in this period, then who is the Antichrist? Who is the Antichrist? Who is the antithesis?
The Antichrist is on your screen and in every person that embodies who's on the screen right now. Period.
That is the remedy. That is the remedy.
And she needs to take her shit back. She needs to get herself in order.
That part. And so what does that mean? Remember when I was telling y'all about her
point of saying that the reason why they have turned is because of what she was dealing with internally. You're saying is no, that's not the case. It's just their nature.
No. The nature of yang is destructive, because there are even stories in the Metu Neter about this, if you know how to read it, about Ra going rogue and threatening to destroy everything, and it was only until his mother anchored him that he could become, that his life affirming nature could take hold. It was only through his mother subduing him. You feel me? Now, this is, when I'm telling you this theory is prevalent everywhere, it just blew my mind. And what I'm saying about the beginning of all things, the reason I started with yin and yang and the black primordial abyss that we know is she, giving birth to everything that is. She gives birth to everything that is, even males who are so far from her. What did Killmonger say in Black Panther? He said, the child abandoned by his village will burn it down to feel its warmth. We are looking at the sun gone rogue, and this is its peak personification. White male patriarchal domination. And that the only solution, even for white people who are isolated from themselves, alienated from themselves, this is the only solution. And people don't want to hear that because everybody got a problem with black women. Everybody on earth. I said everybody.
No. So basically the antithesis of what we're seeing running things, the solution is what I'm saying. The opposite is the solution of if white male patriarchy is this burning ass sun, right? Got us all in the desert. Then the solution is its opposite, and its opposite
It's black and
black
female.
woman.
It's
Yes.
black and female.
Yes.
And so the problem is that when people hear me say that, they default automatically to hierarchies. Well, and the fear that we used to learn in the movement, like white people, we used to say in the movement, like, white people are just afraid that when we get power, we'll do to them what they did to us. Well, males think the same thing about females, is if these women ever got power, they gonna do to us what we did to them. Completely ignoring the fact that is not our nature. This thing that y'all have done is not a representation of our nature anywhere on earth. Even those of us who are the most malignantly afflicted, this is not something that you see is inherently or is inherent in the bodies of people born with uteruses. You feel me? Women, females born with uteruses. And so that's one thing. The other thing I feel like I really need to stress politically is when I'm talking about the whole reemergence of the matriarchy and not seeing it as hierarchical, seeing it again from the center, radiating out, just like the spiral that we see in the belly button. To return to center is to immediately transform the present that you live in, to go all the way back to the beginning, because this is another thing that we get hogtied to, is the superimposition of, quote, tradition and culture on our current age. I'm not talking about us stepping backwards into the Stone Age. When we look at the Sankofa bird, whose body is facing forward, whose head is facing backwards, but they have a egg in her mouth, right? This is a representation of multidimensionality. To go back to your ancestral traditions, retrieve from those traditions what are useful, shape them and mold them if you need to, so that they are applicable to your present and give you the opportunity to create something new. To be hogtied to tradition typically benefits men, first of all, because all they got to do is shut you up and say, well, women were the ones that came up with polygamy. Like, it was you African women that said we could have more than one wife. You feel me? And then stay dogmatically tied to those traditions that are inherently oppressive to women. Yeah. So we cannot be hogtied to tradition, one. Two, at the time that these traditions that we love so much, right? At the time that they were given birth to, they were new. They did not previously exist. A bunch of people got together and was like, yo, I think it's a good idea if we take a percentage of our yield when we harvest and give it back to the earth to thank her for our bounty. And somebody else say like, damn, that is a good idea because, Mother Earth animals, they need to eat too. And who gonna feed them if we don't? You feel me? And then this becomes this political and economical and communal relationship becomes what we call culture. Then you have what is called the deification of culture. After a long time of, quote, practicing the culture, now it becomes, quote, etched in stone as something that we always do because, quote, we always did it that way. You feel me? At the time that these cultures were given birth to, they were new. What are going to be the new traditions that we create? What are going to be the new customs and the new culture that come from our peculiar lived experience as those who are going to be the architects of this future? What are our descendants going to say about us?
Right.
So,
yeah.
So so let me give you an example because people, the creation of culture. So when I got married, I'm not married anymore, but when I got married, my ex-husband and I were like deep in thought about what this was going to look like. What are the new holidays that we're going to create? Because we had children and we didn't want our children to feel deprived because we don't celebrate the white man holidays no more, but everybody around them do. What could we do to counter what the white man was putting in their face, right? What do you call it? Kwanzaa is a primary example of the. I get it. I don't look.
She's talking about
I get it every time. I am not talking about the contradictions of the man or nothing like that.
We know.
I'm saying it is an example that we all are familiar with that we can look to as what I call building institutions of dual and contending power. And we have to do that everywhere. We can't just be mad about what we have as, quote, these institutions. We have to be actively creating institutions that, like, who was it Einstein said, for every action, there has to be an equal and opposite reaction. If we're not doing that, then we're not winning. So we get into this marriage and we like, look, our kids, we want them to love being African. We want them to love where they come from and their ancestry. What are we going to do? We laid out all the holidays from the moment my ex-husband moved in with me and my daughter. What are going to be our holidays? We was like, okay, we ain't celebrating Valentine's Day. So what we going to celebrate as our expression of love day, our expression of black love. So we identified two revolutionaries that we respected. It was Marcus Garvey and what is her first name?
His wife?
His second wife. The one that basically gave us the philosophies and opinion of Mark. Amy J. Garvey.
Jacques Garvey.
We was like, huh? So
Amy Garvey.
So what we decided was that the day that they got married was going to be the day that we celebrated our Black Love Day. You feel me? That was going to be our, quote, Valentine's Day. To this day, I do not celebrate Mother's Day. Whenever I have my birthday, I give a gift to my mother because I'm her firstborn, right? And so to celebrate the day she became a mother, this is the day, my birthday, that I give her the gift that would be, quote, a Mother's Day gift. You feel me? I, to this day, do not celebrate Thanksgiving because I'm diametrically opposed to the massacre of the indigenous people of Turtle Island. So me and my family, since 2008, make an active statement, and even we were creating events around the fact that from sun up to sun up for 24 hours, we would be fasting in solidarity with the indigenous people of North America, right? And so, and you know, I've done that ever since 2008 till today. I fast on Thanksgiving. These are things that can win people. Yes, they may be strange in the beginning, but that display that I do every year, I make a declaration a week out, and I call on people to do the same thing. I'm like, even if you can only start with 5 hours, even if you can only make the commitment for a certain period of time, people are more easily won than we think. But this is where culture begins, is in direct contest with what is. What we want to see end, what we want to make sure ends, does not come into the future with us, we have to create its opposition. We have to create its opposition.
Awesome.
That's the first thing that we can do as a practical way. Now, where spirituality is concerned, where my rituals are concerned, because I know we started this conversation about blood. There is nothing that I do spiritually that does not have my blood involved. Nothing. Art.
Okay.
If I'm making jewelry, like I have a big ass jewelry order to fill this weekend, I'm lighting 2 candles and placing my moon blood in the candle. You feel me? I have a shrine in my bedroom. I took and wrote out my mantras. It was a chakra shrine, so it's a different wood panel for each chakra. And before I even painted it, I took my moon blood and painted my mantra on each board representing the aspiration that I had for that chakra, painted it, did the ceremony under a full moon, and then put my shrine up. Everything involves my blood. Everything involved. If my blood can generate new liver cells in a liver that's got cancer, or my goddamn moon blood has been shown to get rid of all freaking autoimmune diseases, then let's see what it can do for me. Let's see what it can do for me.
Exactly.
As a matter of fact, let me give you the most recent example. I told
Hold on,
you
before you go on, we got about 5 minutes left before
it won't take a minute.
No, I'm gonna let you finish, but I gotta say something. Once again, I want you to follow these ladies, and before we head out, and we're gonna close with the closing statements, I guess. But I really appreciate everybody being here. I really appreciate y'all tuning in. Make sure you follow the Daughter of the Fates. Make sure you follow Mahogany Muse. And I'm gonna let you finish your statement, and also let them know some of the things that you're going on about your business, where they can sign up. A lot of people want to know about the books. If you have a book list, a book club, or anything like that, they can be a part of. Make sure you share that with them. All right. So before we close out, you could go ahead, finish up your statement, and let everyone know where they can follow you and get more information about you.
Okay. So this most recent radical ceremony that we did was in honor of this transition that I was telling you about that happened on November 19th of 2024. And there were about 35, maybe 40 women who joined via Zoom. And this sister who let us use her property that is up on Mount Washington here in LA. And there was about 13 women or so that were, in space in real time. Most of them indigenous, like Native American or Mexica. And then me and another black-skinned woman on deck. And I told the women, first of all, so in the temple, our saying is we don't pray, we conspire, right? And so when
I like that.
Love it.
When I create conspiracies for them, like if I'm calling on people to do a specific ritual with me at the same time so we can set this shit off, like say the ritual out loud, I will draft the conspiracy for them and then email it out and say, this is the time and the date that we're doing the ritual. And this is the conspiracy that you're going to say out loud, right? So I wrote the conspiracy, and this particular conspiracy was obviously in honor of Oya because it was her day, right? So we erected 2 shrines, 2 altars, one for Oya, and then we erected another shrine where women could bring their ancestral. It was an ancestor shrine because Oya is the guardian of the ancestors. It says, the tradition says that Oya is the one that helps us transition from our terrestrial life to the ancestral realm, and that when she needs it, great warrior that she is, the Egun or our ancestors are the army through which she does battle. It is that the Egun, our ancestors, our collective ancestors, will come and fight on her behalf. You feel me? So we erected an ancestral shrine where all of the women who participated in person could bring pictures of their ancestors and put them on the shrine. Now, let me tell you what we did. The focus of this particular ceremony was righteous rage and revenge. That's what it was. That's what it was. Oya is a warrior. She came to slay.
Yes,
She came to slay.
And slay,
You feel
she
me?
did.
Okay.
She came to slay. So what we did was we were very specific. And I'll tell you, there was an event that happened too. But let me just tell you, I said, anybody that's coming in person, if you still menstruate, make sure you bring your moon blood. I gave them a list of things that they needed to bring, colors that they needed to wear when they were coming in play. And then the sisters that were tuning in via Zoom, things that they could do in real time while we were conducting the ceremony together. The other thing that we did, which we didn't even get into at all, is the whole idea of dances and the role that dance is played in ceremony. To dance counterclockwise means to create. To dance counterclockwise means to destroy, right? And so if we're doing a ceremony about simultaneously giving birth to the new world that we are the architects of, and the simultaneous destruction of that which we do not want to see repeated in the future, this is what we did. So we spent time dancing around this fucking fire, you feel me? Then after we did the turn up, you feel me? I had a big ass black candle, and then I had pieces of paper. I still have, because I'm working on another project with this ash that we generated from this ceremony. That's why I need a team. But anyway, this is the what you call it? What do you call it? What is wrong with my brain? The the big black, the cauldron. This is the cauldron that we used for one of the fire rituals, right?
Okay.
And so what we did, I gave out these pieces of spiral paper to all of the women. And the spiral also represents, so we talked about it in the uterus, but the spiral represents Oya. That's her symbol, the spiral, the tornadoes that she generates off the end of her skirt when she's fucking dancing in war. When she's dancing in war and spinning these tornadoes of transformation off the ends of her skirts. She's turned up. She ain't angry. Man. She's like, everything that I destroy through love. I make war because I love you. You understand? We get stuck in that which we cannot use and cannot carry into the future and prevents our evolution.
That's Pluto. There you go.
You feel me?
Right.
So anyway, we put the names in the pot, baby. We put the names in the pot. I said, be very deliberate. This ain't about some grudge you got against your baby daddy. This ain't the time for that. You feel me?
What is the name of the pot, y'all?
Well, that's what that was for, a very specific ritual. You feel me? There might be other times where because let me tell you, even Kali says she is opposed to any crime against women. So much so that her favorite activity is to wash her hair in the blood of those who offend her. That's what she said. I'm like, oh, I'm there for that. I'm there for this. I'm there for this. You feel me? I said, I ain't never heard that about Kali, but I'm here for it. Yes.
She got that necklace of skulls. Don't play.
Listen.
At her feet. And Durga.
Listen. So when we were up there, I took so we took the names, put them in the pot. I still got the ashes up in the pot. You feel me? Then we took the candle. I was like, the only names that we are putting on here are those who are in positions of power that have a direct impact on our life. So any billionaire, put their name on the candle. Put their name in the pot.
Y'all hear it? Y'all listen?
Oh, why you act surprised?
I'm not surprised. This is fake surprise.
I was like, wait a minute.
You mean oligarchs? You mean
every single one.
The White House?
I said they can be past, present, or future. I said because at the end of the day, we are still directly feeling the impact of people who've been dead 2,000 years. Put their name in the pot. Because to dance the dance of destruction is to destroy everything they have created from the past all the way into the future. You see what I'm saying? So we did that. Then we wrote the names on the calendar. We took a knife, wrote the names on the calendar. On the candle. You feel me? And then I, with my hands, took these women's moon blood and put it all together and bathed this candle in their moon blood. And set that shit on fire on my goddess shrine until it burnt out. Now, the last part of that ceremony, which everybody has to remember, because I think a lot of people don't remember to do this, is to ask the mother, do you receive this offering? And if so, show me the evidence that it has worked. Let me tell you what happened. This was on November 19th. I said, the last thing I said to I told these women, I said, the last thing that I said is make sure you remember whose names you put in the pot or whose names you etched in this candle. For the next 7 days, be scouring headlines to see if the evidence of your spell working. This sister, I don't see her on here. She was the first one. She emailed me the next morning with big old, like, oh my God faces. She said, I cannot believe this. This was the first person's name I put in the pot. He is in the news today, being exposed. He is one. As a matter of fact, you mentioned him, Sha Bliss. Guess who it was? Remember the white boy who came out and said, guess what? You lose. It's your body, our choice. That boy. The next day, he is in the headlines, not only for having gotten arrested the next day, but also being exposed. He is this hard right, MAGA, extreme rightist, for his homosexual lover of 10 years outed his ass. The same day.
See?
24.
Okay, hold on, please. Hold on. God. Listen, hold on now. Those of you who are saying, what can I do? I don't know what to do. I don't have this. I don't have that. Listen, have you heard? She just laid it all out there for you. This is what we do, right? This is what we do by using that magic potion. And if it's not yours, you got sisters in your community. It's time to move in unison. It's time to move in synchronicity. And like she said earlier, it doesn't take a lot. It doesn't take many. All it takes is intention, right? The intention that you have in the right component, and you carry that naturally. Learning how to align yourself with the moon and the moon phases. Also learning your natal chart, because every full moon may be a different moon for you where it's laid out at. So when you learn that, oh, my full moon is in Aries, and Aries falls in my 7th house of opposition or open enemies, things of that nature, then you can utilize the power of that Aries moon in that place. Just because the moon is in a particular sign, once you know where it is in your chart, you can activate that part of your life, and it will hold more power for you personally. So there are things you can do as a collective, and there's things that you can do individually. Y'all better go ahead and follow the daughter of fates right now. You better go ahead and get this information, this knowledge, this wisdom. We have dropped a lot of we nothing shit. She has dropped a lot of
Okay.
sacred information, right? This is why I really wanted to have you on this panel. I wanted you to talk scientifically, esoterically, and culturally so people can get a very broad perspective and get more meaning to what we mean about this sacred blood, the anatomy and physiology of a woman, the connection. You brought out the charts, you brought out the diagrams, you had the background, you brought out all the information. Listen, and then at the end, mwah, chef kiss, mwah, how you topped it off with the ritual. And listen, oh my God, I'm blown away. This is going down in the book, show. I don't think you understand what was this. If you missed the show, it will be re-uploaded. Go back and listen to it. Share it. But those who may need to know this information, because the shift begins with us, right?
Yes.
We are the total opposition of what we're seeing going on in the world today, in the face that they're using plastered all over the place. Well, in hermetic laws, the hermetic principles, laws of opposites, laws of correspondence, laws of what is it? It's top and bottom, left and right, gender, all of these things. These laws are there for a reason, and it's time for us to tap into them. We are the ones that's here to shift the paradigm. We are the ones that will be ushering in this golden age. The sisters that are on this panel right here and right now, delivering this information to you, real time, on this Valentine's Day. Shut your mouth. Talk about that blood.
The
What
power
you
of the
talking
blood.
about? Listen, hey, go ahead, Mahat. What you
I
say,
want
Miss
to
D?
highlight something. I want to
Oh,
highlight something Cassandra just said, daughter of the faiths. She
yes.
said, use your, and it was in the comments, use your sister's blood. I want to pause right here for a minute because do you understand what's happening if your sister gives you her blood, the trust that she's giving you? And that's a bond. That is, y'all talking
Responsibility and
about blood
accountability
oaths and
that comes
sacred
back
oaths?
too. Whew.
There's nothing
Yes.
higher than saying we're going to come together collectively. We're going to combine this, and this is what
Yes.
we're doing. Stop playing with
Yes.
me.
Stop
Okay.
playing with
Look.
you.
Look.
We not playing.
Look.
Whoo, Lord have
Look.
mercy.
There
Girl,
is
Yeah.
nothing more stronger than that.
fire,
We
fire,
don't have to
Yeah.
go
fire.
out in the streets to march. We
No,
can
fuck that one.
protest whatever it is we want to protest in our home, in the backyard, under the moon, naked, or
Go
in
to the
whatever you
waters,
want to
go to the
wear,
river,
and
whatever your
write it out with your blood. Put it on the candle,
Ooh,
whatever it is. Pour it into the lakes, the rivers, the oceans. Pour it into the ground. Whatever it is you want to do, there is power in the blood, and it is yours, and it has a divine connection to the mother, to the planet, all of that. Use it.
Yes. Yes.
Use it.
let me say this
I.
one, I'm gonna let you close out. But the Pluto just hit me about transformation. What you were saying about Oya. We in the year of the snake. The year of the snake is about transformation, right? Pluto, where we're seeing it had crossed over into the age of Western astrology. It crossed over into the age of Aquarius. It changed signs. It's gonna be here for like another 20 years. It is about transformation, and Pluto does not compromise, right? It's an annihilation of one so the rebirth of the other can take place. Pluto also rules the reproductive systems of the body, right? We're talking about the uterus and the sacredness. We're talking about Venus and we're talking about Pluto, especially when Venus starts to make an aspect with Pluto in the sky. That is a magical time for you to tap into your power of your sacredness, the divine feminine energy, to bring forth transformation and renewal, right? The color of Pluto is black and red, like the color of Venus is green. So utilizing and understand how to use metaphysics, learning how to use your natal chart to tap in. Look for where Pluto is. Check it out. You want to do some transformation with your menses? Look for where Pluto is located in your chart, the house that it's in, the sign that it's in, and the element of that sign. If that sign is an earth sign, then you know you need to be working with the earth element. If that Pluto was in a fire sign, then you need to know you need to be working with fire energy. If it's in the air sign, then you need to know you be working with that element. Once you understand that, now you can really give that extra sauce to your rituals to watch it manifest quicker, faster, and bring more meaning to your life. This is something that we all can do individually. Thank you, Cassandra. Go ahead, girl. Golly, I'm lit over here. I got all kind of things I'm ready to think about doing.
Nandi on here says those are Eshu's colors too.
Okay.
Baby, I could teach a whole workshop on how Eshu is Oya, but y'all ain't ready for that conversation.
They may be.
Y'all ain't ready for that.
Course out here.
That's
we
a
need
deep one.
crash courses. We need to hurry up.
Oya also in the tradition governs the third eye. In the tradition where the chakras are concerned, Oya is the only female Orisha that governs one of the higher chakras. See, when you're looking at the chakra system, you're looking at Earth, Earth as the heart. The heart chakra is the Earth chakra, right? Specifically, the horizon where heaven and earth meet. This is the heart chakra, right? And so the chakras below the heart are considered your earthly chakras. The chakras above the heart are considered your heavenly chakras. This is why Jesus is always at the heart chakra, right? He's always placed at the heart or got his little heart on fire. You feel me? Is because what does he say? He says, there is no way to heaven but through me, or there's no way to the Father but through me. There's no way from the earth from the earthly realm but through. There's no way to the higher chakras for the earthly chakras but through the heart chakra. There's no way to heaven but through me. There's no way from the earth but through me. This goes in two directions. People don't want to have that conversation either. We always talk about the lower chakras as something inherently bad, or like we have to ascend above. Nope. Salvation is in the earthly chakras. You see, salvation. What did we just say? The mother who rules the earth of yin and yang. Yeah, the Antichrist who will save us all. The she who will usher in the new age is the lower, is the earth, is the earthly chakras that we ignore because we have given so much supremacy of the intellectual, spiritual, elevated son over the mother. You feel me? And so when Barbara Moore in Myths in Secrets and Sacred Symbols and Sacred Objects talks about the Vesica Pisces, right? The little almond shape, or the almond shaped fish that represents the age of Pisces, the sun in the age of Pisces.
That also matches the wound that they put on Jesus that looks like
not only that. The reason it's called the vulva is because in goddess worshiping societies, it was the mother's vagina open at the moment that the child comes through her cervix. The moment that the baby crowns, that's why the cross. That's why the cross is the first thing to become, quote, illuminated, is the crown of the baby's head. So when you're looking at the fish, when you're looking at the Jesus fish, I wish I could draw it for you really quick. And you look at the Jesus fish facing up, and them two little sticks that represents the fish tail, if you were to draw them out, it's the mother's butt. You feel me? The top of the Jesus fish is the top of her thighs. As a matter of fact, I can show it to you.
Yeah, go ahead. Bring it. How y'all feeling out there? Y'all getting this all in? Y'all taking this all in?
This is what you're looking at when you're looking at Pisces Vesica. Vesica Pisces. Is you're looking at the Jesus fish right here, open as the mother is giving birth. And the first thing to, quote, hit the light of the sun, quote, or to see his father, or, quote, to be illuminated, is the top of his crown chakra. That comes from her little Jesus fish legs extending out to her buttocks while she's in the birthing position. You feel me? And so we were talking about our entry into the year of the snake, and I'm reading Myths and Secrets by Barbara Walker. And there was stuff I was learning about the snake I didn't even know. She tells this pornographic story about this Egyptian pharaoh, this king, who is, he's talking in metaphor, but I'm telling my listeners, I'm like, y'all know this is porn that we just read right here. I was like, yeah, it sounds beautiful, because he's talking about preparing himself for his journey through the underworld, because the Pharaoh was a personification of Ra on earth, right? And he had to, whence the sun go down, to prepare himself to get ready for his solar boat journey through the underworld, right? Through which his wife, who her title was called the Serpent of the Nile, life giver of the Nile. You feel me? The Serpent of the Nile. Yeah. I said, he talked about how he had to tap his wife on the ass to get some booty so he could go into a deep sleep to make his journey through the underworld. I said, this is what the story was just telling. You feel me? That he recognized that the only way for his kundalini to be stimulated, what is his kundalini? His kundalini is the female aspect of himself. And it is only through the female aspect of himself that he can achieve enlightenment. That he can't achieve enlightenment without it. That's why the Pharaoh always had the cobra springing forth from their forehead. It didn't happen just because that's what the Hindus will teach you. That's what the Buddhists will teach you. You got to meditate for 100 hours. You feel me? You got to chant Om for 100 hours. You feel me? You got to fast for 40 days and 40 nights. And you too can experience Kundalini rising. Well, all you have to do is to get laid well and appropriately in a ceremony called intercourse, where represented by the open mouth of the serpent. All this time we were taught that the penis was a representative of the serpent. It is not. No. The mother's birthing tract is the uterus. Her vagina is the open mouth of the serpent who envelops. She was called the great enveloper. She would envelop her son, because we all women. She would envelop her son so that he could again experience heaven the same way that he experienced it when he was coming out the other way. They call the uterus, they call the vagina, the two-sided gateway. The two-sided gateway, where you can experience heaven from coming down, heaven to earth, or you can experience heaven from earth to heaven. The two-sided gateway, which is your vaginal serpent mouth opening. And you come to the earth through the fish. You come to earth through the fish aspect of the portal, and you go back to heaven through the open mouth of the serpent that envelops, to ensure that you experience heaven through your orgasm. You understand what I'm saying?
And that's why they're mad, because they've been locked out of heaven too long.
Well, they did it to themselves. They did it to themselves. You feel me? Believe in the hype. Believe in the hype. And Kali teaches that in the Kali Yuga, which we are transitioning out of, that the only males that will be spared the destruction of the Kali Yuga are, quote, those who worship at the lotus of their mother's feet and who treat their wives as gods in their home. That's it. That's all. That's all. Now,
if you don't want to praise what she is and honor her, you will not be spared
at all.
And we don't have to sacrifice anything.
Yeah, it's true. And so I think the lesson, Sister Shy Bliss talked earlier about other practical things that we can do. First of all, I speak to every black woman. Every black, I don't care who she is, what she look like, where she come from, homeless to the wealthy. If I pass a black woman, I look her in the eyes and I say, peace, goddess. Peace, goddess. Yeah, if you are not black and female and you pass a black woman, you greet her the same way. Greetings, black woman. Peace, black woman. Hey, how you doing? Goddess, empress, ma'am, whatever you want to use. But that's the first part. That's the first part. This madness of y'all feeling also super comfortable, blaspheming black women on these social medias, knowing that there's a come up tied to, there's some dollars tied to how vicious you can be towards black women. We've already seen a few years, not just over. We've already seen a few years of immediate retribution that the mother has taken on these males. So y'all can call it everything but what it is, but don't change what it is. The mother is on the scene. She got an attitude, and she has drawn a clear line. You either with me or you ain't. And you can be, you can be tree food if you need to. you can be plant food.
Yes, indeed.
Fertilizer works. It grows things.
This is fun.
This
This is
was
fun.
phenomenal. This I didn't expect. This is getting better by the minute. Like this is sister, you are a wealth of information.
Yes,
You have been appointed our griot now from here on out. Like, you are the griot of the congregation. So let's make sure once again you follow Daughter of the Fates. Tell them about your
Okay.
you said
Yeah.
where they can
All right.
follow you, your businesses and all that good stuff.
YouTube is at, you have to put in the search engine at Daughter of the Fates, because if you try to type it out as separate words, crazy shit comes up. You won't find it. At Daughter of the Fates, one word, on YouTube. That is also my IG. Daughter there's an underscore between each word. Daughter underscore of the Fates underscore under each word. I tell you, I cannot follow you back because my stuff is maxed out on that one. So my healing IG is Release Heart Center. So release.heart.center. That's the name of my healing practice. Release Heart Center. Release.heart.center. There I can follow you back, but you can still send me messages and I answer every message on my IG. Email me if you want to book me for, I do divination. I also do the 5 elements that I talked about earlier. That's the method that I use. So I do complete wellness consults using 5 elements theory. And it also comes within 7 days, typed out complete diagnosis of who you are in the moment, what you need, whether that's nutritional direction, herbs and formulas, whether it's a temporary or more permanent dietary change, and what your complete diagnosis is based on the 5 elements. Okay? Any kind of lifestyle changes you may need to make, those kind of things. So you can either, get a 5 elements theory wellness consult, which is really great because we're changing seasons. And so it's really good to prepare how you're going to adjust your lifestyle based on the coming season. The coming season is the liver season, spring, which is huge. To me, it's the most important organ afflicting women in general and Black women in particular, especially where menstrual issues, reproductive issues are concerned. The liver governs the moon blood. The liver governs the moon blood. So it's a great time, even if you do not bleed. If you are a female, regardless of your race, but if you were born with a uterus and you want to make a great dietary change based on who you are at the moment as we're transitioning into the spring season, then the next few, the next 6 weeks is an opportune time to get a 5 elements theory wellness consult so you can prepare for your shift into the different season. So if you want information on divination or the 5 elements theory, you can email me at evoemetemp@gmail.com. It's Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. So it's evoemetemp@gmail.com. Okay. And then the last thing. So I recently lost my job because of the LA fires. So I've been really fighting like hell to shift into, I was doing out calls. That aspect of my job I am done with because of the impact that the fires have had on the majority of the people who I was treating in their homes. And so I'm actively fundraising. So if you want to support through either booking, divination, 5 elements wellness consults, but I also have a jewelry business that I've had since 2008. That is also Daughter of the Fates on Etsy. So it is daughterofthefates.etsy.com. I make dope ass jewelry, if I do say so myself. Every piece that I make is a ceremony. I treat it that way. I light candles. I play music. Like everything is deliberate. And in this month, for Black History Month, everything on the site is 10% off. And I have about 380 unique pieces. So I make dope stuff. If you can't find what you like, I can make it. You give me the vision, I can create it. So visit my Etsy store, daughterofthefates.etsy.com. And please follow me on my YouTube channel, because YouTube do not like my mouth. You feel me? So I'm probably going to stay at 3,000 followers for forever. You know what I'm saying? So please follow, like, share, subscribe. Y'all know the drill. Thank you so much, Empress, Goddess, Mother's Reflection.
Sister, the honor was all mine. This was
so much fun.
And I want to invite you. I just put the tag behind. We're having a Quantum Fest in Houston on the summer solstice.
I love
It's gonna
Houston.
be phenomenal, and I would love for you to be a guest speaker for us there.
Oh,
And I'm gonna give you more information. I tagged the
yes.
link down below so that we're looking for vendors, we're looking for entertainers, we're looking for speakers. So go to Quantum Fest,
Nice.
quantumkingdomevents.com, and you can sign up there. They'll get back to you if you want to be a vendor, if you want to be a speaker, lecturer. Just make sure you fill out the form. They will get back in contact with you. But sister, we need you there. I would love for you to be one of the guest speakers there. It's a 2-day festival
Awesome.
on the summer solstice. It's that Saturday and Sunday. I believe it's like
Ooh.
June 20th, the 21st, the 22nd. I believe that's
Okay.
when it is.
I'm already saying
It's
yes.
going to be an amazing, amazing event. It's all about quantum healers, quantum teachers. We are making the shift, quantum leaping, quantum jumping. We need to, since you just confirmed and put the stamp on this,
Yes.
that it's up
Yes.
to us to make this shift happen.
It is.
It is only right
Yes. Yes.
that you grab this baton and you quantum leap on up out of here. Like, we have to do this. The responsibility and accountability is on us. This is why you returned, right? You came back in this incarnation at this particular moment, at this particular time. It's no accident that you came through this birth canal. All of them billions of gazillions of
Yes.
tadpoles went there to
Yes.
fertilize one egg, standing there like the egg looking
Yes.
like my emblem in the back with all these little billion trees coming in there. And you made it. You're here. So you're here because you have a mission. And a part of your mission is the awakening, is the shift of consciousness, and is to
Yes.
reclaim your power. This is your
Yes.
planet. I keep telling y'all
Yes.
that. I've always been telling y'all that. But now the sister broke it down scientifically, culturally,
Yes.
through
Yes.
esoterically. And I'm thankful. You got to come back again. I
I would
need you
love
back
to.
here
This was so
again.
much fun.
And
I love
oh
us.
yeah, we're gonna
I
build
love
more. I
us.
appreciate you. I love
I
us
just want to
too.
shout out all these people who tuned in. I'm seeing people I
Yes.
went to high
Shout out
school
to the
with. One
Jasmine.
sister, I ain't seen this sister. I graduated high school 30 years ago, child. My homegirl is on the call. I ain't seen her face since we graduated. Like, she on
Wow.
the call, yo. That's so dope. There's so many dope people. This is my
Everybody.
bag. I love us. I love us.
Hey,
I
we
love
need love.
us.
We need to love
And I
each
want to
other.
say about your Quantum Fest. Let
Yes.
me just say, I might have to be a performer, boo.
Oh hey, well,
I'm just saying, I will
go
speak,
ahead.
but I might have to be a performer. I just started taking sitar lessons, like sitar, like the Indian instrument from India.
Okay.
I
Mm.
might have enough. I might have
Oh
enough
no.
songs in my
That's
little
gonna be
bag
I was
by the
about
summer
to bring up
solstice
I was about to
to do a
bring up
little
some shit.
to do a little set. You feel me?
Hey, do the set, do the ritual, do everything. Hey, we finna set it off.
Yes.
It's on the solstice. Come on,
Yeah,
like
it's gonna be
that's
powerful.
it's a
Yeah.
magical time. Say, Seek,
Yes.
what you got, honey? What you got to close out, baby? Give it to
Well,
me.
I am always appreciative and thankful and grateful for being brought up on the panel.
All the
Just
time.
sitting here listening to
Yeah,
Daughters of the Faith, and of course you, Shabliss. You
I'm
know
just
what
here
we want.
hosting. I'm just
So
pressing buttons and hosting.
I just love I just love us. I'm
Yeah,
just,
Yes.
I
give
can't
a love
Yes.
even.
on this
They're not
Valentine's Day.
actually enough
Oh,
words to describe that. I love us. I love us coming together, talking about things, but actually putting together actionable things that we can do to shift our reality, to be
yeah,
empowered, to start doing things, not just talking about what happened and what's going on. What can we do? That's the
Yes.
practical application of it, because you can read
Yes.
all these books, but if you do
that
not
part.
put the practical application to work in your life and start seeing results, what are we talking about?
That
Right.
part.
So
Nothing.
That
I
part.
wanted to say that there.
There you
Now
go.
the other thing I wanted to mention is I am about to start a book study soon. It is the
Okay.
Mysteries of Parthenogenesis.
Oh, 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 oh. Oh, shit.
So that's going to be starting on February 23rd. Do you mind if I mention that, Shaw?
Good girl. What you
Okay,
talking
I'm
about?
just saying. So
No,
it's going to start
I
on
was pressing
February
buttons. I wasn't even.
23rd. So you can go to my Patreon. If you go at Mahogany Muse 314, you have my YouTube channel. It's the same thing on patreon.com/Mahogany Muse 314. So all of the details are there on the community page on the YouTube channel as well as on Patreon to sign up. What we'll be reading and discussing and researching, excuse me, is these two books here. The Great Red Dragon. And y'all see how old and beat up this book is, because this is how long ago I had it. They stapled it together. This is a book called The Mysteries of Human Reproduction. I also offer a different tiers on my Patreon, but one of the tiers is a library where I have the majority of the books that I've mentioned. It's there. So the other thing that I do is purealchemy.com, which is a different YouTube page. And that's Pure Alchemy, PureAlchemy.
Can you repeat the name of that last book?
Which The Mysteries of Human Reproduction.
Thank you.
That's by Dr. Raymond Bernard. The Great Red Dragon is by Professor Hilton Hotima. But yeah, it's pretty much about emotional, spiritual, and intellectual sovereignty and what goes on with our bodies and how we can get our bodies back to. So
I love it.
I'll leave that there.
I love it.
Now, for Pure Alchemy, I do eco-friendly candles. I have smell good candles, but I also have ritual candles where they're crystal and herb infused, all of the things. So, go check it out. I got a YouTube page, website, all of that. And I'll just leave that there.
Awesome.
Oh, and follow me on YouTube.
That makes sure, absolutely. Everybody
IG,
get their
TikTok,
handles,
all of that.
all that good stuff. Wow. Once again, a phenomenal show, amazing guests, wonderful information. This information is going to change your life, y'all.
Has to.
Change your life. Change your life. Daughters of Faye.
Yes.
I will
somebody in here wanted you to do the conspiracy. I don't know if we have time for that, but I saw a comment under here.
Oh.
Do the conspiracy. What does that mean?
Yeah, I can read it.
Remember, she mentioned earlier, I forgot the exact word she used, where she said she doesn't
we don't pray, we conspire.
Pray, you conspire.
Yes.
Meaning women coming together to affect change. And
using
I don't know like how long
breath.
it is or whatever, but I did see a comment.
It's very short. It's it's not a prayer, it's a conspiracy, but when you think about manifesting, y'all think about like prayers. You feel me? And the reason why is because the word conspiracy, the etymology of the word conspiracy means literally to breathe together a sacred oath that ensures a certain outcome. And then the example that is used is that you have an orchestra and there's everybody with different sheet music, but they produce one song. They produce one piece, though all of their positions, all of their sheet music is different. They are breathing together, the orchestra, to produce a certain outcome. This is.
Can I jump in real quick out of love? What she just said, she just dropped a bomb. If y'all didn't hear it, she said etymology. For people who don't know what that is, when you are writing, speaking, the words you use, they hold power. And just going for the dictionary definition of it doesn't tell you where it comes from and what the root is. If you want to know the root of the word, you go do the etymological research to find out the root of that word, so you know where it came from and what it really means. Like the meek shall inherit the earth, but that would be a whole nother class. But go ahead, doctor.
I do it for every single word, no matter how seemingly small. When I found out what compassion means, I was like, why do I hate this word so much? What kind of weirdo hates the word compassion? And then I found out the etymological roots of compassion. I trust my flesh. I trust me. And when I was like, oh, I hate this word so much. Why people keep using this word? And then I looked it up. I was like, there it is in black and white, right there. Why we should all be opposed to the use of the word passion or compassion. So, look it up for yourself. The conspiracy. I, Cassandra Faye Floyd, you place your own name, as a peculiar expression of the almighty and divine she, am joining in breath with my family to conspire on behalf of the whole made well. We are breathing these words together to ensure that our home, her body is restored to her original perfect glory, a glory that is perfect in peace, love, bliss, happiness, and ecstasy. This world exists because we collectively will it so now. We are the representatives of the Mother's reign on earth. This beautiful conspiracy is spoken as one cosmic earthly orchestra to guarantee heaven on earth. With the power of my mother and our mothers, we welcome this glorious future into the now. It is as we say, Mommy and I are one.
There it is, y'all. And that whoop, there it is. That was amazing. That was fantastic.
That was
What a
beautiful.
way
Thank
to
you
end
for
the show.
sharing.
You're welcome.
That
You're
was
welcome.
great. That was beautiful, poetic, amazing. We need to y'all go back and play that, recite that, whatever it is that you need to do to get
I'm
in
going back and
alignment
play
with
this
your
whole
shift.
podcast.
Yo, that's gonna be a clip. I just want you to know
Yeah.
that. That's gonna be a clip. I'm gonna be putting that on TikTok everywhere. Thank you, ladies. Thank you so much for joining me. It was an honor. It was a pleasure. I learned so much. I was in class today.
I
I
love
was in class today,
that.
and I know you have so much more to share. Definitely gonna have you on again. I'm gonna talk to you after the show. I mean,
Awesome.
probably tomorrow because I wanna. You said something about that goddess. I want to tell you about this experience. So
Oh yeah, please, yes.
share
I'm
that with
I'm
you.
like totally interested. I'm curious.
Oh yeah, yeah, yes. It's okay. We're gonna talk about that. See, it's always an honor, always a pleasure to see you, my sister. Thank you for
Thank you
being
for
on the
having me
panel
on.
again.
It was so
Thank
good to
you.
meet
Yes.
you, goddess. Yes, yes, yes,
Oh
Nice to
yeah,
yes.
meet
we
you as
family
well.
now,
I
honey.
probably
Look,
will be reaching out to you as well, Cassandra.
I love it. I'm here for
don't
it.
get us three in the room. I'm just
Okay.
saying. But
Okay.
anyway, whole earth about
Yes,
to shift out here.
Okay.
yes,
So once
yes.
again, I'm gonna contact you ladies again. Thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate y'all. Make sure y'all go follow these ladies. It's been an honor to be with them on the show. It's been an honor to be here. Thank you all. I appreciate you all rocking with us today. Oh man, I don't even know where to begin, where to end. Make sure you cop some of Mama T's Sacred Tea, the Blue Lotus Wellness, the Blue Lotus Magic, I should say, the Wise Elder with the elderberry, and the Euphoria for those of you who like to partake in the partake. And I'm coming out with a new blend next month called Cocoa Thai. I think y'all gonna really like that one. But I just want to say this, y'all. This show I felt was very important to talk to the ladies in regards to the power that you're holding naturally, who you are as a being naturally. You came into this planet with power already embodied in you. It is time for you to tap in to that ancient wisdom that has never left you. It's been laying dormant. And the sisters that came on here today was to activate you and activate your power, your wisdom, and your knowledge. Sisters, we have just scratched the surface of a truth so ancient, so powerful that it has the potential to shift not just individual lives, but the very fabric of reality. The womb is more than just a biological organ. It is a cosmic portal, a vessel of creation, a living library of ancestral wisdom. And when we awaken its power, when we honor its rhythm, when we reclaim the sacred knowledge that was stripped from us, we activate something unstoppable. This is the era of the woman's return, the daughters of the great mothers. We are here forming the critical mass. We are shifting this thing in real time. The frequency is rising. And whether you are here to birth life, to birth ideas, to birth change, you are the force, a conduit of transformation, especially right now in the year of the snake, in the year of the nine, the divine 999. The time to remember is now. So let's take this conversation beyond the podcast. Let's embody it, live it, and share it until millions awaken to the power pulsating within them. Stay connected, stay in tune, stay in alignment with your highest divine self. And with that being said, peace out. Love to y'all. I appreciate y'all. Thank y'all for being here. It was a phenomenal show. Stay tuned for the next one. We have a show coming up. This one is called Alchemy, Astrology, and Destiny. I'm going to have my sister Ty Phoenix in the building, Aquarius Maximus in the building, the astrology doctor in the building. This will be on February 28th, so make sure you like, share, and you follow, because you don't want to miss that one either. This is going to be a phenomenal show. And once again, thank y'all so much for joining me. I love y'all. Peace out. And don't forget to cop the Sacred Groove album. If you haven't heard those 12 tracks, bangers of the soundtrack Sacred Groove, make sure you pick that up. My website, sacredtea.net. Once again, if you want to be a part of the Quantum Fest, make sure you go ahead and go to quantumkingdomevents.com, sign up, get the information. Summer solstice 2025. This is going to be, I mean, we moving things out here. We're shifting, playing. We are the pole shift. And with that being said, y'all stay peace, y'all stay love, give thanks and praise to the Most High God in you. Y'all be good now. Take care. Peace out. If you would like to be a guest on the Stella Maris Podcast, please contact me at info@sacredtea.net.